Can you guys hear me? Let's see if this works. Pancakes, I see you in the chat. Can you hear me? Magda? Hello? Tell me in the chat if you can hear me, like, to confirm. I need your assistance. Golden Gunpowder needs your assistance. Oh yeah, I forgot I have like the 10-second timeout on the chat. Hello? There we go. Oh, that's what it looks like. We can hear you. Ah, excellent. There we go. Yeah, I put the 10-second delay on the chat in case someone wants to come here and do a little bit of trollage. Yeah. So we'll still like we'll wait until start with the show until like 17, so like 4 minutes, the launch date. I'm playing Minecraft and you speak and I got scared as well. Yeah, that's a shame. Fair morning from the new world. Yeah, I know it's like it's like the morning in America. Which state are you from, even Armored? Love your content, great work, and thank you for watching, thank you for enjoying. But yeah, we're gonna start in like 4 minutes. I got some little announcements to make. Georgia, oh yeah, that's the state that Stalin was from. The man who ended fascism was a Confederate. Sweet Georgia peaches. Crew of the Fancy, yeah. Crew of the Fancy, if that's your real name. New to the channel, love the videos. Hello, baseball card. Hello, Geo. Soul's World. Can you tell about Howell Davis? I have a video about Howell Davis if you want to learn more about him. But yeah, we're gonna start more in. I have an X from Georgia State. Yeah, not the Georgian X. Well, do you like the state? I hope the state is not ruined for you. I just wanted to say this channel got me through the first 2 years of university. Well, did you take a course in piracy, or was it just like the crushing depression of going through university? That's Georgia's first governor, by the way. He fought in Worf Jenkins' ear. I'm a bit rusty on the Georgian governors. I love it. Can we get videos about Oriental pirates? Yeah, I'm gonna answer. Yeah, I'll start answering the questions, by the way, in like 4 minutes or something, because I got like a little announcement to make, and I want to see like maybe some people will drop in, exactly at 17, or like I think it's 9 in America. What is the time in America, or like Eastern Standard Time? You guys who live on the East Coast, I guess there's like some people who might live on like California. Now it's just a neat thing to watch each week. Yeah, 10:58. Oh man, it's pretty late, huh? Yeah, I really fucked up the time zones, didn't I? Yeah, I remember like when I was gonna do the interview with like for you guys who watched the Horny Gold video, I did like a short interview clip with Bayless Brooks, and like we were gonna set up at like a time, and like I fucked it up each time, and well, he fucked it up also. Yeah, you gotta distribute the blame, Sing as a sea shanty, no, hell no. I need more rum in me. But yeah, Bayless, we fucked up the time zone so hard we had to redo it several times, Also, like the first podcast I did with like Cindy Valor, I like the recording got messed up on like the first time, so we had to redo the interview, and it was like, she knew all the questions, and it was like, it wasn't awkward, but it felt like scripted in a way when we did it, It was fun times, fun times. Once I get the right vocals, I might release one. I do sing sea shanty sometimes. I met like this summer I was like hanging out with a musician, and we like started singing sea shanties out of nowhere. That was kind of fun. But it's like sea shanties have nothing to do with pirates, or at least like the Golden Age pirates, because it like sea shanties only came about in like the late 1700s, which is after the Golden Age. They only had like, in the Golden Age of piracy, they had like rudimentary work songs. So just like yo ho, it's like, and you pull a rope, and like the French, they had like 1, 2, 3. All right, so it's 17, or I guess 11 in America. So I guess we should start. Welcome everyone to the 50K subscriber live stream. Of course, there tends to be a tendency when someone hits like a subscriber milestone to do like these sorts of things where we just hang out, answer some questions, have a bit of fun, But before we get into the fun stuff, I have a little announcement to make. So in the near future, I'm gonna set up a one of those like Teespring channel merchandise shops where you guys want, if you want to support the channel and get something nice in return. It's mostly going to be stuff like mugs and shirts and maybe some posters with like maps, but mostly stuff that have like some sort of motif. And the perfect motif is pretty much going to be like historically accurate pirate flags, of course. So flags which eyewitnesses from the period actually described pirates as using. So I've set up a little poll. I'm going to link the poll right now in the chat, where Magellas, who's in the chat right now, he's a very talented artist. He made like pretty much all of the pirate flags we know that pirates used. Brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Yeah, we'll see. Here, you can take the form, and you can check which flags you like, and then you vote for like the 5 ones you like the most. And then I'm gonna look at the poll and see which 5 ones were the most popular, and we'll do them. I don't know when I'll set up the shop. Maybe in like, I don't know. I cannot confirm, but hopefully before December. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Are you Swedish? Yeah, I'm from Sweden. Well, yeah. I guess we can just like now that out of the way. You have the link there, so you can go and vote. It's always fun to vote. Polls are always fun. But yeah, let's get into the questions and see what other stuff you guys already have. I'm gonna scroll up a bit so like no one gets like left out. I don't know where to begin. Also, like someone said, like, is this a face reveal? It's not a face reveal. Because a face reveal is like the first time you show your face, and I have shown my face like previously on the channel. And I mean, I do have like a whole video where I do it, but I've done it before. I do have like several Easter eggs where I show my face, but I don't think anyone's found them. I did send one. Crew of Defense, I did send one to you on your channel comments. Did you see it? It's a pretty funny. Well, I think it's funny. I laugh at my own jokes. I mean, someone has to laugh about it. All right. So Fred Leet 1337 asked, didn't they sing tavern songs though instead of shanties? Yeah, they sang songs. There are like they definitely sang songs. The French, for example, it was very popular for French sailors in general to like make songs about their officers, kind of mocking them. I don't think that was so popular in English, but they definitely had like average songs. Only one flag can be selected. Oh well, then you only get one flag. I lied, and I'm not ashamed of it. But yeah. To answer that, yes. Also, like when you guys ask me questions, like I'm not gonna answer it straightforward. I'm gonna like go on like long rants because that's just how I operate. And for some of these questions, I might just like sit around for like 5 minutes, just like, just like fucking ponder it, So Pancakes asked, were there ever any accounts of any sea rovers using boarding pike formations in a defensive way? So of course, sea rovers are like pirates and privateers and stuff. They operate. Their motivation is to like attack and take and plunder ships. So they usually operate with offensive tactics. And the boarding pike it's a defensive weapon. So the boarding pike was primarily used by merchants when they wanted to like defend the ship. But I know the boarding pike became especially popular in like the late 1700s during like the War of 1812 and maybe the American Revolution. I'm not an expert on this period, so you should not ask me about the late 18th century. You should only ask me about like the Golden Age. You can ask me about Vikings and stuff, which I cover on Baltic Empire, but I know next to nothing about the late 18th century. But yeah, boarding pikes was primarily a defensive weapon. Sea rovers didn't really operate in a defensive manner. And when merchants, so you might say like, oh, so merchants used boarding pikes. Maybe, but they preferred to use closed quarters. And closed quarters, I like mention it in like every other video because it's like one of these things which are usually forgotten about pirates or well merchants. They went below deck essentially, and they had like barricades. Crew of Defense said yes, boarding pikes were common later in the century. Yeah, there we go. I know Gilkerson, that's his last name. He wrote like a book about the weapons of that period. I have read it. It's also got like stuff about boarding access. If you want to learn more, I'd highly recommend it. Let's move. I hope that answered your question. If you got like a follow-up questions or anything, or if I didn't like answer your question enough, you can just ask it. So, and we'll check it out. Why do you sound so different? I swear, I don't know. You sound Dutch to me. No, I'm not Dutch. Will you do videos about life of pirates on the land? All right, so I get like I always get like a lot of questions about like videos I will make about certain videos, and the thing is like I have so much material about this like period that like I don't think I ever gotten like a question. The reason I laughed is because C asked the pretty. I'll get into that. I'll get into that. I don't think I've ever gotten like a question about will I make X video where I've been able to respond, no, I will not. I do not have material for this video. The question is always just about when. And the thing is, I don't want to give like I don't like making like false promises like yeah, I will make this video. You know, I don't know. So like it's I don't want to any question about like will I make X video. You know, I don't want to disappoint you. You know, but I want to cover literally everything. It's just about a question of time. I know I do release like videos like every video of the month, like every week except the last week of the month. So you know it's but there's a lot of stuff to cover. And also questions if I will cover like stuff outside of the golden age of piracy. No. And even just like about other pirates, I want to focus on this time period. It's not really about pirates themselves, really. It's mostly that like the time period is interesting and the pirates in this time period are interesting. And you know, it's also like the reason I'm able to make these videos in such detail is specifically because I focus on it. And like I don't just read like one book on it. I read like multiple books on it. So if I would like branch out and cover like lots of radically different time periods, like if I would start covering like pirates in China during like 1500s or whatever, or if I would cover like sea peoples or like ancient pirates, if I would want to cover those in the same amount of detail that I do gold and gunpowder, it would require an immense amount of work, and I'd rather just leave it to someone who, you know, who's more of an expert in it. That being said, it would be like there's not a lot of people who do cover it, so it would be interesting if more people did. But you know, it's not my job. Is this a face reveal? No. Let's see. There's a lot of questions here, so let's see. Yeah, some people say that you can only vote for like one flag. I'm not an expert on like Google Forms, but yeah, I guess it's only one flag. I guess I lied. Alex Rexros asked, I know the fabric of a flag is fragile, but I wonder why we never found at least pieces of a Roger from the time. Heard that they were burned when pirates were captured. Is that true? I haven't like I hear it repeated a lot as well that like pirates would destroy their flags. I don't like at the top of my mind I don't have any like examples of it being described that they ever do such. There are very few examples of like most of the people who describe pirate flags in the period, like eyewitnesses, they don't describe like the flags in front of them. They describe the flags being used like when the pirates attack. The only like incident I remember when they actually found and recovered a flag was like when Bartholomew Roberts was captured. I think they recovered like one of his flags. And what did they do? And yeah, I think they also recovered Delane's flag. And I think the Delane flag, like for some while they had it on display. They did make like several like illustrations of Delane's flag, like a woodcut, and then like an illustration, and it got featured in a book from the period. But yeah, did they destroy their flags? I mean, it seems like that they did. They also destroyed, you know, there's like pretty much no like logs from actual like logbooks from actual pirates. They probably destroyed those. They probably didn't keep them either. And you know, they also destroyed the Articles of Agreement. The Articles of Agreement, you know, it's like the pirate code. They would nail it to like the door of the cabin, so it would always be there. But I guess they destroyed it. Maybe someone like answer this question also. Holy shit, there are so many questions. I'm sorry if I won't be able to answer all of them, especially since I always respond in such detail. Geo asked, "How did pirates clean their clothes?" Um, I mean, there are several methods. Like for one, and I know Crew of the Fancy, you made like a video about it, but then you deleted it. And it's fine. I wish I could delete some of my videos also, but you know they make me money. I gotta eat somehow aside from privateering. Um, how did pirates clean their clothes? Yeah, so they had like some of them just like basically just hung them up in the rigging and just let the rain do the work. Others like they just like laundered it like on the ship sometimes in just the regular way. It's like take fresh water and soap or whatever and just like squeeze it out. Some ships did have like washerwomen aboard, like Woodes Rogers. He took aboard several women as laundry women. And then of course the best way would I also imagine that like a lot of the pirates who operated out of just the Caribbean, I just went on like short trips out of like New Providence, for example. They probably like just went out for a few days and then went back. And then they had like wives or just women or whatever on shore who could wash clothes for them. Is that a zucchini from the sea? Yes, yes. Oh, if you mean in the background, like the pumpkins, those are pumpkins. Those are pumpkins. I bought them today. Those are pumpkins. They're not zucchinis. They're pumpkins. C is making like a reference to a video collab we did. So C covers. He makes videos about movies. He has a big focus on Pirates of the Caribbean, which is why we tend to cooperate. So he made like a video which I appear in yesterday about the Brethren Court in Pirates of the Caribbean 3. I'll link his video. You guys should check it out. This is his channel. He makes really good videos. He also responded to the Nostalgia Critic videos on the Pirates of the Caribbean, which were like, I mean, they're pretty bad. Holy shit, someone has donated $20. Tom March, just found your videos and been working through them. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the super chat. You'll get a heart from me. Glad you enjoyed the videos. Okay, let's go. Chat go burr. Yeah, exactly. It does go burr. No Somali pirates then. Yeah, sadly I will not cover the Somali pirates. They probably they'd go after me. They'd come for me. They'd come for me. Frogman asked, "What would a pirate cheap in their chest?" You'll have to cheapen their. I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Magellas. Okay, you can choose another flag right after you vote for one. All right. Well, I guess I didn't lie then. Sometimes I surprise myself. Ilya Lucky asked, "Will you make a video about John Taylor?" Yeah, I asked the will I make a video. I asked this by mistake. I hopefully John Taylor, or well, his real name was probably Richard Taylor. He's definitely one of my favorite pirates. I think he's very underrated, so I hope to cover him, but we'll see. Alex Reska, you asked another question. Will there be more interviews of historians in the future? Yeah. I hope to relaunch the Piratical podcast, but you know, it takes a lot of time to do. But there will be an episode. I will film an episode. It's gonna be live even. I'm gonna be live with the interviewee, but it's coming later. So I hope to do, and I do want to interview what's his face against Kevin, I think his name. I don't remember. Is one of the. He's pretty much Bayless Brooks like rival, like they're arch enemies because they have like rivaling theories on Blackbeard. So I want to interview him too, just so he can like present his side of the story. So because I have given like Bayless a lot of attention on the channel already. Francisco V asked, maybe you could play Assassin's Creed Black Flag and do an analysis about how accurate it is. It is not accurate. It is one of the worst in terms of historical. I'm sure it's a great game, but it's not historically accurate at all. Like everything in this is like there's no history in it. If you want to think it's good, you know, sure. But if you ask me about the history, you know, it's not historically accurate. Dobby Brutta asked, do you need or want original music to use? I can produce something free of charge for you since this is such a great podcast. Oh, thank you. You can hit me up in the email or on Discord. There's a link to the Discord server where you can reach me in the description of this video, and the email you can find it on my channel, in my channel description. Coffee and Pie, is that a Twin Peaks reference? I hope it is. Where do you find the sources to the videos that you make? At its core, I basically just like find books about pirates, and then I go to the sources, the books that the sources cite, and then you know there's like also people in the Discord server who tend to post sources, and other times I just Google. But usually I get most of my sources from other books that cite their sources. Like Benison Little, for example, he's in most of my videos. His books are in most of my videos. He does also a great job of like citing period sources, so I can usually go to those period sources and like read them for myself. We got another super chat. Let's check it out. I need to scroll down. History of Pirates. Congrats on 50K and many, many more. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There we go. You'll get a smile also. That made me happy. Thank you so much for the super chat. Now I gotta scroll up again. Michael Smith asked, what would your loadout be if you were a rover? Swords, firelocks, and ship, etc. I mean, ship, you just use whatever you have on hand. Firelocks, I mean, muskets are the most like useful. And swords is like, I mean, cutlass is like the best if you have no training. Arcade, such a shame that only pirates get good coverage on YouTube, but cowboys don't somehow. There are a lot of good channels which cover like the cowboys and such. I don't remember their names because I only seen them in like the pass by, but there is one channel which has covered a lot of the Native American history and like the Comanche Wars, and I love that stuff. Pancakes, you already asked several questions, so I'll get back to you later to give other people a chance. You're too ruthless. You're too savage. Raven 236. Did pirate ships ever accept paying passengers? I mean, you have to be really desperate to seek voyage on one. No, I'm not. I mean, the thing is like pirates and privateers, you know, they don't like go to if you want to like book passage aboard a ship, you want a ship that goes to specific locations. And pirates, you know, they don't really go between port to port. They have a port, they leave it, and then they like go around and steal stuff in the area, and then they go back. I don't think I have any like at the top of my mind. I don't remember any incident where someone booked passage aboard a pirate or privateer ship. Guys, Caligula, you really do look like a Viking. Yeah, sometimes. Mary Ronda, did pirates swing across with ropes while fighting other ships? No, they didn't. It's like a Hollywood invention because it looks cool. It's for one, it's like really dangerous. For one, there's no like loose ropes just hanging. That it serves no purpose. Like the ropes in like the rigging, they serve purpose with, you know, manipulating the sails and like the booms and stuff. So you could have like throw grappling hooks across, but grappling hooks are used for like pulling two ships close, like this, boom, and then you can like jump aboard. And also like if you had like ropes which you could swing over, you make yourself a huge open target. Someone just comes with like a musket, you know, 360 no scopes you. Or if you land, you know, you can break your ankle, you can break your foot. It's pretty dangerous. Or you can do like a ninja roll or something, I guess. No one is going to do that. John Burgart asked, did any pirates/privateers have formal fencing training? You and crew of the fancy mentioned boarding, fighting, and Celtic Wild. What would the ratio be if yes? I've never seen this like documented about like the sword fighting training they had. And you know, you don't really like if you train for like sword fighting, for like formal sword fighting, then you train for like duels. And duels are like, I mean, it's not a battle. It's like it's essentially like a form of legal settlement. So it's like a completely different case. Duels in themselves have nothing to do with piracy because piracy is an occupation, and duels are like a legal settlement. Fofi Chulo, congrats on 50K. Thank you very much. Frogman, do you know how pirates made their flags? I know you already asked, but it's as a question and I answered, but this is an interesting question. I do actually want to make a video about it in the future, but it's not really something documented. But you know, we can look at like how people made flags in the period. We can look at like the colors pirates would want and how they would have those flags. And the common materials, we know it's often described that they like to use silk. Silk is very expensive. I don't know like other like common flag materials. Crew to Fancy probably knows it. I was going to ask him for like when I make the video. As for colors, you know, black was very expensive in the period. It's historically it has always been really hard to like produce a black dye, and pirates were actually quite involved in the dye production because, you know, they were the baymen in Yucatan who harvested logwood, which is a type of tree. It's actually a legume, a bean, and the wood chips from this from the logwood it's used in making black dye. So maybe some of them had easier access to black dye through this, but they probably also used like a lot of cheaper alternatives that from afar looked like black. For example, Howell Davis in A General History of the Pirates, which is not so reliable, so you take it with a pinch of salt. He was described as using a dirty tarpaulin. And a tarpaulin is, of course, a water-resistant cloth, and it's just dirty. So it's just, that would add the black color. Another pirate, I don't remember his name, he was described as using a blue flag, a dark, probably dark blue. So some of them might have used like dark blue colors. They might have used brown. I like to speculate. I never heard about them using dark brown, but it's something I speculate on. And then the motifs, they probably got motifs from like tombstones, gravestones, funeral cards also. Do you want to watch every movie with pirates as protagonists? Asked Arcade. No, I barely ever watch pirate movies. It's like not really interesting. I love the poncho, by the way. Thank you. It's very nice. I have several ponchos. I bought some from Peru. This one is not from Peru. It's from, I think it's from Mexico. My mom bought it for me when I was like 16, maybe. Curve to Fancy said, as a material culture guy, outside of wealthy clothing, it's really, really tough to find cloth artifacts at the time. Fabric that didn't decay was reused. Yeah, that's true. Very interesting point. Nathan Kodoras asked, I've asked me, matey, so not sure if you'll see this, but I did see it and I'm reading it. Have you ever seen the documentary True Caribbean Pirates? And if so, no, I haven't seen it. I don't watch documentaries. Let's go on. Actively random. Is Bro growing a beard? Is Bro growing a beard? Yeah, I didn't shave for a while because a friend wanted to see me in a beard. And then I figured I might as well have a beard for like the video to like surprise you guys. Because last time I showed my face, I was shaved. I mostly shaved. I mostly go clean shaven. I will shave after this video. Tyler Rodriguez said, "Hello, good sir." Hello. Hello to you too. Nice to see you. Also, to you guys who asked like questions several times, I'm like scrolling through like once at a time, so I already see your questions, so you don't need to ask them twice. I will try to ask every question. I will try to answer every question if we have the time. Fred, Gunpowder is a pirate with thousands of dollars worth of editing. I'm not gonna say where I got my editing software from, but I did not spend thousands of dollars worth of editing on it. My editing is actually very simple. It's ghetto tier. I never thought I would see golden gunpowder soy. No, I'm a huge soy boy, you know. Got my fridge stacked with soy boy. No, it's stacked with rice. For you guys who got rice was the real reason why the golden age of piracy ended. Tell me in the chat if you know the reference. It's really vague. Well, I can tell it actually. There was some guy in the Discord had like a bug on YouTube where like my recent video on how piracy was defeated, the thumbnail for it was one of Adam Ragusia's videos about rice, like about rice poisoning. That's the reason why the golden age of piracy ended. They imported rice from Madagascar and got lead poisoning. Just some dude. Where's your government issued tall blonde girlfriend? I have them in my closet. I got several of them. Blockhai asked, will you ever cover the Victual Brothers? Probably on Baltic Empire, yeah. I do like the Victual Brothers a lot, and the fact that they were like defeated by the Teutonic Order. Like the Teutonic Order were like these German crusaders who like settled in like the modern northern coast of Poland, and so it's like the Eastern Baltic. And they like just went to Gotland where the Victual pirates were based, and they just like defeated them. So like you have knights versus pirates in the 1400s. It's pretty metal. But yeah, the Baltic was like, it pretty much had its own golden age of piracy during like the Middle Ages. It was wild. Ratch Darastrix asked, did pirates really have blood? You're weird. I just move on. Frogman, you ask too many questions. Well, what would a pirate keep in their chest? There is actually one description from like a captured sloop where it described like what they actually had in their chest, and it was mostly clothes and like clothes for like every occasion. But there's like they would have tobacco, pipes, a bit of money, stuff like that. Probably like personal collective stuff like seashells. Rodriguez said Kevin Duff's. Yeah, that's his name. Yeah. about like the Baylor's rival. Guess Caligula, any more Viking videos coming up for the Baltic channel? Yeah, there's one. The follow up to the Östervego video is coming out next week. It's about Constantinople. It's pretty good. It's like I have a lot of animations in it, so I hope you'll enjoy it. And I will cover. I will have more Viking videos. Yeah, there's a lot of Viking stuff coming, but it's mostly going to focus on Eastern Europe because I'm more interested in like the Vikings in Eastern Europe instead of like Western Europe and like Britain, because like everyone does it, everyone talks about it. And I think like in the Eastern Europe you have like way more cultures interacting. You got like Vikings fighting against like horse nomads, Pechenegs and Khazars, and even like going down to Persia and stuff, and even like serving as mercenaries in the Mediterranean. Unknown author, will you do a video about Spanish Guardacostas? Yeah, I keep answering these questions. I will make a video about every topic about parts. Oh shit! I scrolled too far down. Kalevin Atla Gaming, the man, the legend. Never thought how it did look, but your voice fits your appearance. Yeah, it tends to do when you see what a person looks like. Nice to see you. I know you've been subscribed for a while. Raymond, I would definitely purchase music as merch. I mean, if someone else makes like music for me, of course, maybe we can like set up a deal. I do hope to like, I do really want to like make deals with like people who do make like pirate stuff, like people who make, I don't know, like pirate historically accurate clothing. And I love someone who would make like flags for the wall with like historically accurate materials, to like set up a deal with them and just like artisans and craftsmen, and then like basically use my channel and like my store as like a medium to like get these people to be seen. Mostly to, of course, to like get them attention, but also so I can make a bit of money from something nice. I want to sell like nice quality stuff and like spread this stuff into like the culture. Niju Ni AI. How good were pirates at? Also, sorry if I mispronounce your name. Some of you guys have such weird names. I mean, it's the internet. Everyone's weird names. That golden gunpowder guy, yeah, he's got such a weird name. Oh, I'm sorry. How good were pirates at reading/writing? If they were good, if they were to create an article of agreement, would everyone be able to read it? All right. So when asking if pirates were good at reading or writing, you usually look at like the maritime scene, like sailors in general, like the maritime community. And there was one historian who did like he looked at like he researched the literacy of like the common sailor in this period. It's like a lot of people dislike this guy. I don't remember his name at the top of my head. But he's done a lot of good research as well, but he's kind of ideological, and I don't really care about that. I mean, if you can like notice ideology and like just be critical, it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, and he found out that like a majority of them were literate, but the way he did his research was basically to see if they were able to sign their name. He'd consider them literate. I think that was how he did it. So and like some people just basically sign their name with an X. But of course, I think it was like close to 50-50 for the average sailor. And the more specific like artisan jobs they had, the more literate they were. So like cooks, for example, and pursers, of course. Purser is like the bookkeeper. They were more literate. But otherwise, you have to remember, like in this period, a lot of like media was oral. So for example, you have like this like type of media called broadsheets. Broadsheets are like, it's essentially a common song. Instead of like pop music, instead of like having a popular album, you have like the lyrics to a song, and you write on top of the paper, you sing it to this melody, and you paste it up, and then a bunch of guys just like get together and they sing the song, and you only need like one guy who's able to read. And you also have like one guy who's able to read. He can read aloud to a whole crowd. And you have like this very common, like in households, people read like just one person in the family who can read, they read aloud to the family. Reading aloud, it was much more of a communal activity in this period. So for the articles of agreement, everyone did not need how to read and write. They could just like listen to one guy reading out the articles. So literacy, it was probably like, I don't know, 50-50. If you were more like, if you had a job which needed more education, you were probably literate. Frogman said Arizona Ghost. Yeah, that's a good cowboy channel. Fred, can you do us a favor and crap more on Salmonella's part video real quick? No, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to. I mean, that video is like pretty negative, and I tried to like I know like negativity is like a lot of people profit from it, but it's just like it's kind of exhausting. I don't enjoy it. Like in any of the videos where I'm negative, I don't enjoy it. Like it's just kind of it's kind of draining, and I prefer to just talk about like real history and the stuff I know instead of like being negative and talking about stuff which isn't relevant to the history really. Uh, Pretty sure pirates didn't know how to read or write. Yeah, that's a definite statement which you shouldn't make if you're not educated on the subject. Arcade favorite Western movies. I like Dio La Testa. Duck. It's literally means duck your head. I think it means like I think it's called in English like a fistful of dynamite or something. It's part of like it's one of Sergio Leone's like late Western movies. He made it before Once Upon a Time in America. Once Upon a Time in America is also very good. It's not a Western, it's a gangster movie, but it's also really good. It's set during like the Mexican Revolution in like the 1910s. It's really good. I like Quien Sabe. I mean, the Dollars trilogy, of course, is very good, but I do think like Once Upon a Time in America is probably better than the Dollars trilogy. It's really good. The original Django is very good. I don't like the new Django movie, but the original is really good. I don't really like what's his face, like the director who did Django. I don't really like him. Michael Smith, did you study history at university? No, I didn't. Lego Studio, are Vikings pirates? Depends on how you define pirate. Do you define pirate as someone who like goes on a ship and like robs stuff via ship? But it's just like Viking. It's like the word Viking that appeared. I have a video about it on Baltic Empire, so it was used kind of like for anyone who conducted like military campaigns by the sea during the period and before. But a military expedition during this period was usually a piratical raid. They didn't like military expedition. It was very rare to like go out and conquer in this period. Actively random. Did pirates ever sail anywhere cold, and what would they wear? Yeah, that's a very good question actually. Yeah, they did sail to cold areas. Most, in particular, they mostly if they wanted to go into South America, so the South Sea, so like Peru and Chile, the west coast of South America. They would sail around They would either cross the isthmus, the Panama Isthmus. They would have to abandon their ships. So if they had like big ships and good ships, they didn't want to do that. So they would have to sail around South America and the Strait of Magellan. And this is like close to Antarctica, so it's cold in their winter, which is like summer in like the north. It would be cold. It would be ice, like, and you have several pirates who like and privateers who wrote about their struggles like sailing in this cold area, like Woodes Rogers. He wrote about them, and also like Bartholomew Sharp, of course, on the Pacific Adventure. And Woodes Rogers, he said that, of course, like the officers, they donated their own clothing, so the tailors aboard could make these clothes into winter clothing for the sailors to be warmer so they could wear them. But he also thought that more effective than warm clothing was alcohol. And what happens if you drink alcohol, it actually dulls your feelings. So you don't feel cold, but you're actually freezing to death. But he thought it actually made them warm. It was a common misconception. It was also very good to have like, they would wear like fur clothes, but it was also very effective to have tarred clothing. So you have regular sailors' clothing, but it's painted with tar. So tar is like very like I think it's like very isolated, insulating. So it would like deflect water, but it would also be very warm. I hope that answers your question. It's a very good question. Maybe I can cover it some more in a video. Logan asked, "Do you have a top 10 for favorite pirates?" Yeah, I do. I don't really want to rabble them out, like just rabble them out because it's like I'm just gonna be able to read them aloud quickly, and I won't be able to like explain why I really like them. Crew of the Fancy said wool. I think that's like replying to what material flags were made out of. Tyler asked, "Is there any one of your videos you wish you could redo for one reason or another?" Yeah, I want to redo like all of my videos made before like 2023. And my goal is like pretty much I always like remake like old videos and like republish them, like the sloop video. I had like an old sloop video, but I made a new one. In particular, I probably want to remake the video on Blackbeard, just to include like the Duffus theory, and not go so heavily into like the Bayless argument. But also like the old videos about the Buccaneers, I really want to remake those. But yeah, pretty much all of my videos, except for like the Captain Swan video. That's like the old video I have, which I really enjoy. I still watch it sometimes. It's my favorite video, definitely. I really like that one. Whirlpool, did pirates eat curry? Probably not. They would probably be disgusted with it. Kajada asked, if you had to live in the Caribbean during the Golden Age, where and when would you want to live, and what would you want to work as? That's an interesting question. Where I do like New Providence because of the pine yards. They have pine field that's probably quite beautiful. And Providence was also like during the 1600s. It was, for the most part, it was pretty calm. Like it was basically just like Puritans who lived there by themselves. There wasn't like huge slave plantations. It was basically just like a bunch of Puritans just living there chilling. And of course, sometimes you had like pirate activity there. And they like fished for wrecks. They did a bit of farming. They usually like raked salt. What would I want to work with? I don't know. I mean, if I lived in this period, I'd probably be involved in like some sort of like armed activity, like militia or like soldier or like escort duty, maybe a merchant or something, maybe sailor. I don't know. Arcade asked, "Would pirates accept pirates that were found out being gay?" This is not something they really like. We really know for certain. We have to look at like other maritime scenes. So we have to look at like the Navy and the Merchant Marine. There's only one incident we have where pirates accused someone of being homosexual. So we don't even know if he was being homosexual. It could have been like just an accusation because he was arrested for being a homosexual. They confined him in irons. They said, you had sex with your male servant, who was probably a young boy, by the way, um, and we're going to arrest you for it. But he was later released. All of this might have been political moves because he was a supporter of one guy that got deposed. And in the Navy, of course, they're like British sailors. They were not friendly towards homosexuals. And regular people, disliked homosexuals. In London, there was like a pretty active homosexual community in form of the Mollies. They were cross dressers, and they had to like it was illegal, so they had to hide from the authorities. And they would also like go to special like Molly houses, which were essentially like homosexual hangouts and cross-dressing brothels and stuff like that. But it was like upper class people. These were like upper and middle class people. These were not like lower class uneducated people, like sailors and pirates were. They were mostly from the lower classes. Um, and in the Navy, like in the Dutch Navy, for example, there's one very famous instance where a Dutch sailor was found out of being a homosexual, and he was marooned. They put him on an island to say good luck, and then the English found him, and he was dead, or well, he was gone. They didn't find him, and his stuff was just abandoned, and they presumed he was dead. So yeah, we don't know if pirates would have. Some pirates probably might not just have cared, like they were just like do whatever, we don't care. But most of them, if you look at like the contemporary culture, they were probably quite hostile towards them. And there's actually like this one instance on New Providence. During New Providence, there was a very corrupt governor, like in the late 69. He's like probably one of my favorite governors. And he was like he basically used pirates. He welcomed the pirates in, and he used them to suppress the local populace, to like suppress voting and keep himself in power. Like this guy was a corrupt, like he was such an asshole, you know. Really interesting, really interesting figure. And he released prisoners from the jail, and one of the prisoners was a homosexual. He was accused of buggery, and pretty much all of these people who were like accused of crimes and desperate, he like took them under his wing. Pirates, of course. So maybe this guy sailed with the pirates. But yeah, I hope that answered your question. I'm going to make a video about it sometime in the future. But for the most part, most people in this period, and probably pirates by proxy, were hostile towards homosexuals, and it was something you'd keep to yourself. And there's also a lot of people like debate if like homosexuality as we know it even like existed as a concept. Like did people, because you didn't like get arrested for being a homosexual, like as a sexual identity. You got arrested for committing buggery, and buggery was like, it's kind of complicated, but it's basically entails any I mean, it can be defined as including any sex which is not procreative. So it could be just anal sex with a woman. It could even be oral sex sometimes. But for the most part, it meant pedophilia or sex with another man. There were people like in the period who did like anal sex with women in the 1600s. Like the 1600s, it was like sexuality in this time wasn't really different from ours. Like people were very open about this stuff and did like really weird stuff. I saw we got a super chat. Let me see. I see. Oh, you didn't have a message. Saifa, I think that's how I pronounce it. It's like old English. Thank you so much for the super chat. Let me scroll up. I hope that answered the question about the homosexuals. It's a very like complicated, interesting topic. I'm scrolling up to see if I can. Oh, there are so many questions. Thought sugar ended the golden age. maybe. I might want to have to like keep up more with the chat. The dank kush, only a pothead would ask that question. Did someone ask about weed? There are a lot of people who ask me if pirates smoke weed. William Dampier, he heard about weed and he described it as being weird and like it turned you weird and like no, pirates didn't smoke weed. I will make a I plan on releasing a video on tobacco and smoking in like December for Christmas. And it's like, no, they didn't smoke weed. Stop talking about it. It's just a bunch of potheads which asking this question. It's like, hey, dude, did pirates smoke weed? I'm a pirate, dude. They're just like me. I probably offended so many potheads, but they're probably so relaxed that they don't care. But no, pirates didn't smoke weed. I mean, I'm just joking. I'm just having a laugh. Crew of the Fancy, I'll make flags if you want. Yeah, we can talk more about it. It would be awesome. Lego Studio, I see you've been asking me a bunch of times about sea people. No, I won't cover them. Just some dude, world building question. That sounds very interesting. Would Golden Age pirate ships, brig sloops, feel too out of place in a first century AD based setting? I mean, that's entirely like you're making a fictional setting. You'll have to like define the technological limits and knowledge of this period yourself. So I mean, first century, like that doesn't say me anything. Is it like first century as like they didn't produce steel, or that they Christ had been born, or it's a fictional setting. It's hard to say. If you're asking like, and the first century, I suppose you're referring to like Europe in the first century, so like Rome, they didn't have like they mostly had like galleys, and they didn't have like ocean faring ships, mostly because they didn't have any need for it, so they didn't like develop it. John Bergert asked, is there any documentation of pirates/privateers using slings as ranged weapons? Or if not a pirate using one, perhaps a native if they had a border. The Caribbean natives, they mostly used bow and arrows. I haven't heard about them using slings. They would also throw spears, but only for like hunting, maritime animals. And pirates wouldn't use slings. So if like no, they didn't use slings. I was gonna say like they had like different like explosive and like incendiary weapons, which you could imagine them using a sling with, but they didn't. They used like they threw them, or they had like a special gun that could fire them, like a hand mortar, and they might also have had crossbows or even bows to discharge these incendiary or explosive weapons. There are manuals that describe it, but I don't know how common it was among pirates. But the technology was there, but no slings. Amtman B asked, what is your opinion about the visual look of Pirates by Polanski? I haven't heard about it. Well, I think I've heard it, but I haven't watched it. I barely don't know anything about pirate movies. I don't really watch pirate movies. Miriam Gregorio asked, good afternoon. Hello. My question is, where does your passion for pirates come from? P.S. Thanks for the work you put into this. That's a pretty complicated question. I mean, when I was like 4, I got like at Christmas I got gifted like one of those small like Playmobil pirate toys, which was like a pirate fisherman. And since then, like when I was a kid, I always played with like pirate Playmobil. Then when I was a teenager, I role played as a pirate in World of Warcraft. But I didn't get into the history until like 2019, I think. Um, and then it's just like I research it more, and it's I don't know. I don't know if you can really explain these things. I think it's just like kind of part of your personality to be like to find something and become invested in it, I guess. And it's just I just like the history. I think the history is cool. That's it. I mean, there are other like time periods. I'm sure if there was like some other time period which I would heavily research, I would get into it. But I just kind of like I just like the history basically. You know, I'm kind of like I'm a very stubborn person, and if I dedicate myself to something, I usually like go all out, and pretty much in just like everything I do. Uh, See, nah, The Flash crushes Dollars trilogy easily. I haven't seen it. Maybe I'll give it a watch sometime. Uh, Ant-Man be a great look, by the way. Thank you. Steal the painkillers. How did pirates crap on the side, over the side, crap on ship, over the side? I have a video about how they went to the toilet. They had like they could do it over the side, but it was most common to do it at the head, and the head is the front of the ship where they had like specific toilets, which are basically just like seats with holes leading down to the water. But yeah, I have a video about it. Magellas asked Pirate Iceberg video. No. Blockha asked, does Pirate Sources mention sea monsters and the like? No. Sea monsters is like something we today associate with pirates. Back then, they didn't associate sea monsters with pirates. Uh, Someone whose name is, I don't know how to read Greek Cyrillic. Could the Pirate Republic have stayed as a stable organization? I mean, it wasn't a republic. It's like during the period, some people called it like poetically the Pirate Commonwealth. No pirate ever said that themselves. Pirate Republic is like a modern term. It wasn't like an organized state in any way. It was like basically a bunch of crews that they were just hanging out in like the same location, and they didn't organize. They had like several like there were like several leaders in this area that sometimes these leaders like operated together to like rob ships, but it wasn't. And the organization, it was called the Flying Gang, like this just group of pirates, and some of the most powerful like commodores claimed to be the leaders or protectors of the Flying Gang. Some even said they were governors of Providence, but they wouldn't like invest in the infrastructure. They wouldn't like There were some people who like did trade, but it was like anarchy. It was like people just did whatever they wanted, and like regular people who just lived there, like most of them escaped because like they were getting harassed by the pirates. It was not a stable organization. When Woodes Rogers arrived, there were like burned ships on the beach. The fort was in disrepair. It was a shithole. It smelled horrible. Imagine the smell. Um, the Bad Seeds asked, how you be, matey? I'm fine. I'm very good. I hope you're doing fine as well. Um, Amtman B, do you read German books too? I don't speak. I mean, I have like super basic. I speak super basic conversational German. Ich spreche kleine Deutsch, aber mein Deutsch sind nicht so gut. That's about like the extent of it. I can like an order from a menu and talk about very simple things. My Spanish is also horrible. um, so no, I don't read German books on history. Nathaniel Iron, can we hope seeing one day a video featuring the crew of the Fantasy? Maybe. Maybe. Varigold asked, hope 3 questions isn't against rules or anything. No, it's not. I don't really have any rules. Or, well, I'm like a dictator, I just make up the rules on the spot. What do you think of tasting history? I think it's kind of annoying. I mean, I'm sure it's nice videos, and he probably does a lot of research, but like, I don't really watch his videos. I'm sure they're good. You probably enjoy them. They're probably good. Will you ever cover what was traded in Age of Piracy more closely? Can't answer this question. Will you ever cover cogs and medieval hulks? Yeah, on Baltic Empire, I will cover like medieval ships. Let's see here. I'm so bad at like the chat is so like the scroll in the chat is like so Someone said like the poop deck. Yeah, people always joke. It's not funny. Like when you say like, oh yeah, they went to the toilet on the poop deck. I said poop. You know, you're not funny. Poop deck stems from like French la poupe, which just means stern, so like the back of the ship, and it originally stems from Latin, so it's completely unrelated. You know, if you're gonna make a joke, make something original or make something funny. You know, or we're gonna laugh at you. Well, I'm gonna laugh at you. I'm just joking around. If you want to joke and laugh at that, it's fine. But I'm gonna laugh at you. Um, will you make a video about Pete Hine or is he not in your period? No, I will not make a video about him. It's like a famous guy, and I don't really like covering this like famous people because there's enough people who talk about them. Michael Smith, how would you actually join a pirate crew? Did you just ask? All right, so I mean, if you were on land, if you were in a base that would like say a privateer, they accepted privateers or even pirates. There were a few places which accepted pirates. There would usually be like there might be posters which announced, especially in like civilized places like London or maybe even Jamaica, which announced like we're recruiting for a crew. And then you would like go to the tavern or whatever where these guys are hanging out, and you would just like talk to them, and then they might let you in. I don't know like the recruitment standards, and also like pirates in like the late golden age, they didn't have any ports they could go to, so they usually recruited by just like taking a ship and then like hanging out with the crew, or well like then just asking their prisoners like, hey, do you guys want to join us? Sometimes if they really needed crewmen, they would force the guys to join them, and they would like keep them as like, I mean, slaves, pretty much forced labor. It's a pretty complicated question. Curve Van said the one Dutch channel did do a video on marijuana culture in the Netherlands in the 17th century. I'm not surprised that the Dutch were the ones to smoke that stuff. I was in when I went to Peru. I was in Amsterdam at night. There's just a bunch of stoners everywhere, and people trying to sell you drugs. But like all the people trying to sell you drugs, it's just like, you know, flour. They're just trying to cheat you, you know. A bunch of prostitutes as well. Like the red light district at night, it's very beautiful, but it's like, you know, very filthy. I don't want to be judgmental. If you're into that stuff, that's you do you. But it's a lot of pretty lights. Captain Gunstar, love your channel. Thank you very much. Amsterdam, though, I want to talk shit about it. I was in Amsterdam at the day as well. It's a beautiful city. People there are really friendly, very nice. Love Amsterdam. Great cheese. Space Monkey, lol, disappointment, no Rasta Pirates, lol. Oh yeah, we also got a super chat from Lady Tyler Rodriguez. Thank you very much for the super chat. Let's see the question. So Pirates didn't sing sea shanties like Black Flag, but what about tavern songs? Yeah, they definitely sang popular songs. We know that like sailors and pirates did sing songs. So yeah, definitely. Thank you for the super chat. Let's scroll up a bit here to see if I can see. Please cover pirate hygiene in a future video. I already have covered it. Are you a Christian, Golden Gunpowder? No, I'm not. Pikasilla asked. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at your question because, well, I'm not laughing at your question. I'm laughing at the subject of the question, which is Deadliest Warrior, which is a pretty silly TV series. What are your thoughts on debates similar to Deadliest Warrior asking if a pirate can defeat X in a battle? I mean, I don't know what to say. Like these videos are, you know, they're not serious. Like it's completely silly, you know. It's not serious history. It's not. I have no opinion on it. I don't engage in that sort of stuff. It's just not interesting to me. People just do it for fun, and if it's fun to them, you know, that's fine. Will you, Nathaniel Arness, will you ever do a video on Exquemelin? Probably not. I will probably, I do want to do a video on like a general history of the pirates, but I don't think it will get a lot of views, so I probably would not do it in the foreseen future. But no video on Exquemelin, there's just not too much interesting to cover. Has your, Kadon Stanley asked, and yeah, I've seen you in the comments, nice to see you, Kadon. Has your opinion on Blackbeard changed since your bio video on him? I mean, one thing you have to note is that like my personal opinion as a person is not necessarily the opinions presented in my videos. Sometimes I just want to present a certain like argument. That video is pretty old. What I do wish about that video is that I included more of the like different arguments on Blackbeard. So I guess you could say that my opinion has changed about him, yeah. But a lot of people like question this like idea of Blackbeard not having killed anyone, and they say like, yeah, Blackbeard he probably killed a lot of people. And it's like there's no documentation of he like, and the thing is he didn't need to kill anyone. There was like no need whatsoever for him to kill anyone. So why would he? He didn't need to get any fights because he attacked unarmed merchants. Why would he like start killing people? And even regular pirates who like fought battles, they only killed people if they had to like fight them. It was very rare to like just execute prisoners. There were just like a few bad eggs that did it, but like, so people who say like, yeah, Blackbeard probably killed people, he probably didn't, because like he had no need to. And his tactics were entirely revolved around like scaring people and keeping them, you know, under submission. But that's like another debate, and you can debate this. The thing is like, it's hard to prove something wrong, you know. So people can actually make like a bunch of like statements about whatever, like, and then they say like, yeah, you can't prove me wrong, because it's not worth it to like discuss these things. I think it's just worth to like say, this is what we know. You can speculate all you want, but this is what we know. And there's like basically I don't think there's like any documented case of Blackbeard killing anyone. This is what we know. Moving on. Ampman B says, my son actually plays with Plainville Pirates, Spaniards versus Dutch, Pikes and Musketeers present. Yeah, I'm glad to hear. Plainville is very cool. Miriam Grigori, thanks for your answer. No problem. Gük Tushu is a Turkish name. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Have you watched Black Sails? If you have, how realistic do you think it is? Yeah, I've seen Black Sails. It does get some things right and some things very wrong. It's kind of hard to say, like, but it's like overall, I would not say it is not as accurate as like they claim it is. The costumes there's a lot of like wrong details in the costumes. Most of the premise, like the entire premise of like pirates like fighting for liberty and like freedom or whatever, it's complete, it's made up, it's fantasy. So I would not say it's like very realistic at all. And the ships, the ships are horrible. A lot of the tactics are like pretty good, and like the political dynamics aboard the ships themselves is good. So it's like there's a lot of like good stuff in the series, but it's not like historically accurate. Nutty Cuts said, hello. I found this channel a few months ago and subscribed almost instantly. I never knew I found Pirates so interesting. Thank you very much. No, don't actually watch The Flash. No, don't watch it. Are you trying to pull a prank on me? I take everything literally, by the way, when reading it. Michael Smith asked, was it common for pirates to wear coats at sea? I know the Caribbean is warm, but the ocean is cold. Yeah, it is, and it could probably get windy. There were a few pirates who were described as like wearing coats, like Lionel Wafer said he wore a coat, but I don't think he had anything under it. I think it's mostly the case that like if the climate was hot, you probably wouldn't wear like multiple layers. But there's also like you can also like layer different clothes, which make you like exude sweat more. I think like, for example, if you combine like cotton and linen, for example, we do this in like in the army. You tend to have like multiple layers to like exhume sweat. So they might have done something like that, but it's mostly about, it's not really about the garments themselves. It's mostly about layers, having like the correct amount of layers for the situation. No Graves asked, where are you from, bro? I'm from Sweden. Steal the painkillers. That's a funny name. What's the tastiest dish a pirate captain could reasonably order his crew to prepare? Probably salmagundi. Salmagundi is just like it's just like cold salad, which is just made. You can make it with like whatever you have on hand. So you take like eggs, you can take like a bunch of fruits and vegetables and like meat and fish. And just mix it up, have some like lime in it, a bit of juice, maybe a bit of rum, and you eat that. Onion was very often used. Probably salmagundi. C asked, thoughts on the cinematic masterpiece, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Yeah, it's a I'm mostly triggered about like the intro where they like, they do like this tactic where they want to like turn a like they sail into like the devil's triangle, and then they just want to come about rapidly with the black pearl or whatever, silent Mary that's called back then. And they do like they throw like heavy ropes on a rock, and the ship is like swings about. And it's like they wanted to rip off, they just stole it from like the first movie where they did club hauling, which is a real life tactic, by the way, or well sailing technique. But and in the Dead Men Tell No Tales, they call it bootleg turn. And bootleg turn, it's like one of these like car, it's like a driving technique for cars from the prohibition, where you would rapidly turn a car. So it's like it just shows how like little they cared about the attention to detail. And people tell me like, yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean, it's like fantasy. Why are you like talking about a history in it? It's obvious that they read history books and they took inspiration from history. And you can even look in interviews, they even said, yeah, we read books about the history and we took details on it. And in like the extras to Curse of the Black Pearl, they even had like, a historian, the guy who wrote under the Black Flag. He came on and he talked about the real history. So obviously they care about the history and took inspiration from it. And if there is like historical inspiration in something, there's history to talk about. But yeah, Dead Man Tell No Tales. No, they didn't take the history seriously. So yeah, take that as you will. Otto asked, "Have you ever played Black Quake?" Yeah, I played a bunch of it when it came out. It's a shame that it's inactive now. It was a really fun game. Probably the game which has the best boarding combat. Like the gunplay in that game with like the paired firearms, it was really good. I would like in that game. I would usually like and this was like a real life tactic. You would have like sharpshooters with muskets, guys who were good at shooting. They would like climb up into the tops, like platforms in the mast, and they would like pretty much snipe like the enemy officers and like the helmsmen and stuff. And so I would usually do this in Black Quake, or even sneak aboard enemy ships and like snipe from their rigging. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, I played Black Quake. It was a good game. Shame it's inactive. John Burgart asked, "Did pirates really believe in things like sirens, the Kraken, or the Flying Dutchman?" It's not like something they or anyone really spoke about. Superstitions which are mentioned in the period are usually like really weird, like stuff you wouldn't expect. Like Lionel Wafer, he was a surgeon. He wanted to bring a dead boy aboard the ship, like a dead little kid aboard his ship to like examine. And like the pirates said, no, it's gonna interfere with the compass. So that's like a superstition. A dead boy's body would interfere with the compass. And they might have just made it up as like an excuse for like him not to be a creep, you know. But yeah, that's like superstitions. It was like really weird stuff we don't hear about. But no, like we don't know if they like believe in Kraken or Flying Dutchman. They probably didn't. I don't think those are like modern things we associate with pirates. They probably like didn't know about it. Which is probably from the 19th century. Like I know Kraken like starts appearing a lot in literature in like the 19th century, but it's not really talked about in the golden age of piracy, or 17th or 18th century. Tony Kennedy asked, "Have you ever visited any of the famous locations of the golden age of pirates?" Yeah, I've been to Peru, and I wasn't like. There's a city which existed during the golden age of pirates, which is called Callao. Callao is nowadays part of Lima, and I wasn't like in Callao per se, but I drove through the area. Logan asked, "You interested in talking about river pirates on your channel?" Not really. There's not really much to say about them. Now I jump to the bottom of the chat. I'm starting to catch up. Arcade asked, "Pirates were sentimental." Sentimental about what? You have to ask. I mean, they usually were mostly practical. Like, their ships, for example, they didn't care about the ships looking pretty. They would just like optimize the ships, like cut down the artwork and stuff, like the carved works, to just make them faster. The Sea asked, "Any interest in 19th century pirates?" Not sure if you ever made a video on folks like John Lafitte, but it would make for some interesting videos. It's outside of my time period. Gas Caligula, thoughts on the Dutch in general? They're very nice people, as far as I've seen. I mean, pretty much I think all Europeans I met are like nice, but people in general tend to be nice to me, because it's very rarely that I meet people who are like unnice. Steal the painkillers. Oh, you were too busy looking at the lights, right? Yeah, man, totally. And then they ask me why I'm wearing the black patches against syphilis, I should get that as part of my costume, just have like black patches on me against syphilis. That would be kind of funny. Um, Blockeye asked, were there any part heroes slash shads, as in someone doing something really heroic? I mean, you have to like define what heroic is. Heroic is like, I think Bartholomew Sharp was pretty heroic. Like he just went against all odds and just got his, like pretty much just rescued his men out of a really dire situation. But bravery, what does bravery mean? Like Bartholomew Sharp was also like a huge asshole, very special, very interesting. He's probably my favorite. I mean, he is my favorite part. He is my favorite part because he's just such a weird guy. Did a lot of interesting stuff. Pancakes asked, "Has a Sea Rover versus Navy? How the fuck did they survive?" I mean, nothing surprises me at any point. I mean, people are capable of doing like stuff which a lot of people would consider be really weird. Gaius Caligula, please convert and become Catholic. How old are you? Are you one of those like tradcaf zoomers? Now someone wants me to become Orthodox. Oh, please don't burn me at the stake. I don't mind Christians, by the way. I'm just joking around. Platypie Pope asked, how common was plate armor such as a cuirass in the golden age of piracy, in particular amongst pirates? Okay, so there's no evidence of pirates like wearing body armor of any sort, because it's just like it won't protect against muskets. Were the primary weapon of anyone at sea, and the heavy armor won't protect you against a musket, and it's just heavy, it's going to wear you down. It's just cumbersome, so no one was going to wear it. A few of them did wear like skull caps, which is like, it's just a round metal like hat which just covers your head, and it's meant to protect you against sword blows, and you can wear it under the hat. But I mean, plate armor in the period existed, but it was used on like the battlefields of Europe, mostly by like heavy cavalry, but which is where cuirassiers comes from, the cavalry wearing cuirass armor. But pirates and people at sea, no. In the colonies, in like the 13 colonies, they did wear like body armor. They actually wore chainmail, but that was when fighting against native tribes, and not against muskets, but against arrows. And pirates, they use muskets; they don't use bow and arrows. Michael Smith asked, wouldn't Blackbeard have killed people in his privateer days? Maybe, and also about his privateer days. Some people said he was a privateer. Bayless said he was in the Navy. Then we don't know what he did in the Navy. He could just have been like sitting around in port, but some people said he was active. It's hard to say. The thing is, like, what I'm saying is we don't know for certain if Blackbeard killed anyone, but he was definitely like, there doesn't seem to be any evidence that he was like a mass murderer and like it was his policy to kill people or anything, or even that he like partook in any battles outside of his last battle when he was defeated. A lot of people are going to get angry about this. Like, some people are so like militant about like, oh no, he definitely killed people, or and there's like, people are so militant about their opinions and just get angry if you say something they don't agree with, which is also why I don't like talking about it, because it's distracting. It distracts you from talking about like the really interesting history. Draculina Lelef asked, it may be a silly question. No question is silly, don't say that. I also seen you in the comments. Nice to see her. But will you ever do a video on Barbary pirates? Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. Like, no, I'm not gonna. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna answer this question at the moment. I have no intentions of covering anything outside of like the stuff I usually do. Because like, I mean, of course, there would be like a lot of like other pirates that I would want to cover, but it's just like, I don't have a lot of time, and it would take a lot of effort to like research it, so it might not be worth it. But never say never, but never say not never. Geo asked, did the pirates have any holiday celebrations on ships? I will make a Christmas video about pirates and Christmas, so maybe that will answer your question. A lot of questions if I will make a video, and I'm gonna try not to answer the questions if I'll make a video about X, because it's like, there's not really much to discuss about it really, which is like, I mean, I mostly want to like discuss about stuff, it's either, I mean, in the end it's like a yes or no question, which is like, it's not really interesting. And like the thing is like, never mind. I was gonna say that like, yeah, it's gonna make more people ask these sort of questions, but you're people are gonna ask them anyway, and it's fine. But I don't want to disappoint you, which is like also I don't want to answer them because I have a little anecdote. There was like a guy last year who like he asked on every video if I was gonna do a video on Henry Jennings, but and eventually like when I didn't publish the video on Henry Jennings, which I never said I was gonna do by the way, he just like stopped commenting, and he like his last comment was just he just said he was sad about it, and it's like I don't want to disappoint you, and I don't want to lie to you or like make false promises because I do plan like the videos I make, and I do have long-term plans, but long-term plans can change. Anything can happen, so I don't want to make any promises. Basically, I just hope you enjoy the videos I do release. But I try my best. Like you're always gonna. The thing is, like I can't please everyone. Someone is always gonna be disappointed, but I hope it's like someone is happy and someone enjoys it. Pancake says, I always run musket pistol and either rapier or dagger in Black Quake. Yeah, I don't remember which melee weapons were good. I think the broken bottle was pretty fun. As I just like a lot of comments. We already surpassed 1 hour, so this like might be a pretty long stream. We'll see how long like people stay up. Might have more streams in the future. I do want to do the streams do seem like kind of popular, and I imagine like a lot of people will watch it independently in the future. I do want to make streams where like I hang out with like other people. Probably Crew of the Fancy. I'm probably going to invite you. See, I'm probably going to invite you as well. And we can chat. It's always fun when you're like with someone and can just talk about stuff. But we can also like answer questions and talk about like the questions. C said, in regards to the earlier question, some superstitions, I do actually cover some stuff like the Dutchman and the Kraken in my true story of David Jones. Yeah, so C has a video about the Kraken. So please go and check out his channel and like check out the video. Someone, Casual asked, did Pirates like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies? No, they hated them, and they're out for Jack Sparrow's blood or Johnny Depp's blood. No, they probably love him. They probably buy him a drink. I don't know. Kate on Stanley asked, are you going to do a historically accurate Barbossa art challenge like the Jack Sparrow video? I do actually think like Barbossa's costume is quite historically accurate. It's like his clothes are black. Black was very expensive. He'd probably have like green or like brown or blue or red. But otherwise, like pretty much it's only the boots that are inaccurate. His clothes are outdated for like the 1720s and 30s. He's wearing like stuff from the 17th century, but it is historical clothing. It is, and like some old people in the period, they did wear like old clothes. Actively Random asked, were there any pirates who were artists? Yeah, definitely. There were like, I don't know if there were like painters and stuff. There were like definitely pirates who like illustrated, and there are like some journals which have like illustrations from them. And I think also like Bartholomew Sharp, he did a few illustrations which he published in his journals. But I don't think I don't know if there are like some legends about there being like theater writers, but it's from general history, so maybe, but it's not impossible. But most of those people would probably find legal employ and make more money from that instead of being a pirate. Arcade asked, "Are you a gamer?" You can take that question. Gamer has multiple meanings these days. I don't want to get demonetized, so I'm not going to answer it. But yeah, no, I'm not a gamer. I'm too nice, and I don't play a lot of games. Ilya Loki asked, "Was John Taylor the most successful pirate in the Golden Age?" No, I don't think so. Depends on you. He retired with a pretty decent job and he made a lot of money. But I think like Billy One Hand had a better retirement. Henry Avery, he might have had a better retirement as well. We don't know what happened to Avery, and he made a lot of money. But I don't think he made as much money as Taylor. But yeah, Taylor was definitely one of the most successful. But I think Billy One Hand, I think his real name was Christopher Conant. It's Christopher Conant. I think he definitely made. I mean, he made as much money, but he retired as a merchant, so he had a potential to make more money in the future. Um, Platypipe Pope, thoughts on if space piracy will ever be a thing? I don't know anything about space travel or whatever, so I can't answer it. Outside of my field of knowledge. Matthew Axiak said, I watched your Nights on the Caribbean short, and I think that topic would make for an interesting longer video. There's not really much more to say about it. Or at least I don't have any knowledge about it in the future. Space Monkey said, why doesn't anyone ever talk about John Watling? I have a video series where he's about the Pacific Adventure, where he's featured quite a lot, so I don't know what you're talking about. Frankie said, I could be enjoying my day off, but how else will I be able to participate in the Q&A regarding the Golden Age of piracy? Well, I hope you're having fun and enjoying yourself. Imperial Crusader 21 asked, who's your favorite and least favorite pirate? Howdy, by the way. Hello, nice to see you. My favorite pirate is definitely Bartholomew Sharp. Least favorite, I don't think I have a least favorite. I mean, the thing is, always when sometimes I think a pirate is overrated, but then when I research them more, I actually think it's yeah, they're interesting, but so I don't think I have a least favorite. I think all of them are interesting to some degree, and it's kind of I know I do this in a few videos, and it's kind of I try not to do it, but it's I don't want to denote anyone for liking anything. You're free to like whatever you want, and you have your own opinions for doing it. And I do think every historical figure pirates as well, there's usually some interest in all of it. But yeah, my favorite is Bartholomew Sharp, because and it's hard to summarize, because I mean, he had a very long career. He was a pirate for 30 years. And, he was with Morgan at Panama. He might have been a bayman, so a logwood cutter. He fought against the Dutch, and then he pretty much innovated this idea of pirates going into South America. He was in the Pacific Adventure, and he suffered a mutiny several times. He was in a lot of really gruesome engagements. He was probably the first Englishman to cross the Strait of Magellan in the reverse direction, or cross the Cape of South America. He was an excellent navigator. He was a good navigator, but he was also incredible. And he doesn't seem to have been a bad person. He didn't like executing or murdering people. He didn't like fighting if he didn't have to. He was very diplomatic, but he definitely had he's definitely an anti-hero. He definitely had darker sides. He would do a lot of stupid stuff. He would gamble with his own men, and they just hated him for it, because he had good luck. He would always win. He probably cheated. So he basically got all of their money through gambling, and that's why they mutineered against him, because he stole their money from gambling. So he did stupid stuff like that, and but one of the reasons I really like him is because the Pacific Adventure, which was his adventure pretty much, there were a lot of people. This is the most documented pirate adventure where pirates themselves write about it, which is why I talk about this incident so much. There are I think there's at least 6 journals which describe it, including Sharp. Sharp wrote his own journal. And the most prominent one was written by a guy called Basil Ringrose, who was he was a linguist. And Basil wrote the most important one, and the longest one, and the most detailed one. What Sharp did, Sharp pretty much stole Basil's script. And he, together with the publisher, modified it to make Sharp look better. And they just so you look at the modified version, and it just praises Sharp all the time. And Sharp, he did this in his own journal. He embellishes and talks better about himself to portray himself as a better guy. So you have all of these parts which we have like Blackbeard or John Rackham. Their stories were embellished by other people, and today we have a bunch of media about them. But Bartholomew Sharp, he embellished himself. He recognized this idea of oh yeah, I can become a legend by making myself a legend, by writing about it. I can literally modify history and create my own media, and that's so interesting. And it's it's so postmodern, and I'm really interested in media in this period, and how information was manipulated, and how our myths about pirates, how they were viewed in this period. And Bartholomew Sharp, he understood this. And like, no, I mean, Henry Morgan, he had like a book written about him which like shit talked him, and Henry Morgan like sued the author, you know. But Sharp, he like he wanted stuff to be published about him, and he modified it, to create his own legend. But the thing is, like, people saw through this and they recognized that he was like, you shouldn't trust him. So Sharp is in the dictionary. If you look at dictionaries from like 1725 and 1690, Sharp is in there. There's Captain Sharp, and it says like an unreliable guy, a guy who cheats, someone you shouldn't trust. So like he's so postmodern, It's a shame like he didn't like he's not really recognized anymore. That he was kind of forgotten about, because like it's such a weird incident. Aside from all the adventures he did, and just like, he was offered a naval commission, he declined it. Then he stole a ship. He was offered a naval commit like he was pardoned for his crimes for like stealing from the Spanish, because he had like written maps of South America, and he gave it to the English government and got the pardon. And he was offered a naval commission. He declined it, stole a ship, stole a bunch of sheep as provisions, and then went back to America to become a pirate again. And he fought against a rebellion. He allied a governor against a rebellion. He did so much stuff. It was really an epic career. And also, how how he created his own history. Like, ended up in a dictionary. Really like fascinating character to discuss. Tyler Rodriguez asked, "Have you ever had a negative interaction with a historian?" No, I haven't. I think they're all nice people, and as long as you're like polite and like talk about them. Kevin Duffus, he was a bit critical towards me when we talked in the email, but it's fine. And he had a lot of good points, and we're on friendly terms. Being critical is not like being unfriendly, or it's not unpleasant. It's good to be critical as long as you're like not an asshole about it, and if you're constructive. So I haven't had any like negative interaction. I only have negative interactions with like ignorant people who don't know enough, or people who are rude. I guess it's like wrong to call someone ignorant. You never know. It's especially hard on the internet to know, because people communicate in different manners or don't communicate sufficiently, and whatever. Shirley asks, G&D looks like a cool guy. Thank you very much. I'm sure you're very cool yourself. I mean, you're watching my videos, then you're probably very cool. Well, I think you're cool at least. Tony Kennedy, which part would you say his life journey impressed you the most? Where they came from and where they ended up? That's hard to say, because I mean, all of them, they're all criminals. They all like commit like nasty deeds, so it's kind of hard to like be impressed by them. But yeah, I do. In some ways, I do admire Bartholomew Sharp for some of the things he did. Like, he really like some of his colleagues were just like, they just hated him for like the wrong reasons. Like, they thought he was a coward, even though he was cautious and like really valued being cautious to avoid unnecessary like death and stuff like that. I talk about it more in the Pacific Adventure video. So he faced a lot of opposition, and I have faced like in real life, I've faced a lot of opposition as well. So I kind of know that feeling of just like having the whole world against you. So I do admire him in that regard. Blockhead asked, any notes of part using Molotovs? I mean, Molotov cocktails, I think they're made with petrol and like materials that they didn't have. They did have like incendiary weaponry, but it wasn't like a Molotov cocktail as we recognize it. It's a very complicated topic, so I can't like go into it here today. I would have to like I will make a video about it next year, definitely. Let's see if I can find the great questions. Aaron said they use fire pots. Fire pots aren't necessarily like incendiary. Fire pots sometimes refer to normal grenades. Like, the grenade terminology is like really complicated, because it often refers to like different stuff throughout the period. But yeah, you're correct in that there were fire pots, and some of them were incendiary, but some of them were like normal grenades. Platypi Pope asked, were there any parts of note from the Islamic world in the Golden Age of piracy? Not in the like. I mean, there were like, of course, from like the Algiers, but they operated in the Mediterranean, and sometimes they sail outside, but mostly in the Mediterranean. And there's like the Barbary pirates. Corsair is not the right term for them, because corsairs are French and Spanish privateers. So you shouldn't. I mean, I don't use Barbary corsairs, at least. Raymond asked, any identified pirates from España? If so, say what region. Thanks. They were definitely like Spanish aligned. They weren't there were very few like actual Spanish pirates. Most of them were like state aligned or like privateers essentially. Uh, it's very complicated, but a lot of like Spain was like the Spanish Empire was very multicultural, and especially their armed forces. So there were a lot of like Basque privateers, and a lot of privateers were from the Spanish Netherlands, so from Belgium, modern Belgium. Um, I don't have any names at the top of my head. Um, but I do want to cover like the Spanish scene more. I'm really interested in like Spanish colonial side. It's very interesting. Kate and Stanley, I'm gonna have, go back to work unfortunately. Oh, it's a shame I didn't see it, but I hope you have a good one, and I hope you hear this later. Uh, Frequency IO, I'm from the Bahamas. I absolutely love your work. The Senate of Murphy clan in Pirate Wells, my Guyana. Thank you very much. Uh, I hope you. It's nice to see like people like from the region who also like are interested in their own history pretty much, and I hope you read about it as well. Um, let's see more. Let's see some more. Nathaniel Iron asked, "Did pirates from the Golden Age actually believe in the myth of the Luska?" Never heard about it. John Burgart asked, "I recently got the complete works of William Dampier." Oh, that's very nice. It's highly recommended. What other books could you recommend I get for pirate studies? I found some Basil Ringrose online. If you look at Amazon, there is a collection of journals from the period from Buccaneers called the Dampier Collection. I wonder why. I would recommend that. Also, George Shelvach, very recommended. He's very good. Also, Woods Rogers. Finn Jones asked, "You mentioned that you also do your videos for pirate themed D&D routes. Do you have an active one?" I don't know. I think you misinterpreted me, or maybe I didn't phrase it like in a good way. But I don't play D&D myself. Uh, what I meant by that statement is just like I try to frame my videos so people can use the information for creative endeavors. So like if you do D&D or if you write a book or whatever or stuff like that. But I don't play a tabletop myself. Actively Random asked, "I'm currently making naval weapons." Oh, that's cool. Any suggestions on cool weapons or tools I could make? Marlin Spike, probably. Cutlass, maybe. But yeah, Marlin Spike is like a very necessary weapon on board. Guess Caligula asked, "Thoughts on Kanye?" I haven't listened to his music. Um, Pencil Collector asked, "Which pirate captain do you think would be most likely to win a drunken brawl?" There are a lot of like legends about like pirates getting drunk and fighting. Most of them are for general history, and usually we don't have like descriptions of the physical appearance of these people. Uh, we do know a few of them were absolute units, like John Taylor. Captain Kidd was described as like threatening people all the time, and he was described as being a huge guy. So he's definitely a contender. But Richard Taylor wouldn't just threaten people; he would go down. An eyewitness described him just going down and just beating up his own crew if they got mutinous. So I would say Richard Taylor, like that guy was like, and you don't have to be big. Like even if he was like a small guy, but he might it was probably like average or like a big guy. But even if he was small, as long as he was just aggressive, and like violent, he probably could have like beat up a bunch of guys by just taking them by surprise. But I would guess he'd probably win, or Captain Kidd, just because Captain Kidd was an absolute unit, and he was Scottish, you know. Um, Rodriguez said, "I had Colin Woodard shit talk me once." I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds kind of immature, but I don't know what he said either. So maybe he made some correct points. I don't know, but it sounds very immature. I remember you told me in like emails that he emailed you and like said you were wrong about Anne Bonny or whatever. I mean, I didn't really email what you said, but I mean, if you had a bad experience, I'm sorry for it. Um, Platypi Pope said, "In a few words, any particular thoughts on Internet Historian's video on Stede Bonnet, and particular how accurate it was to the real man's life?" I watched it like years ago. I don't really remember anything about it. I mean, it's a joke video, It's like made for fun. So, but he did use sources, but I don't know. I have my own video about Steve Bonnet. You can watch that one, and you can watch Internet Historians one, and you can like make a comparison and draw your conclusions, or you can like read up on Steve Bonnet. His trial documents are like available online. Platypi Pope said Greek fire had been forgotten before the fall of Constantinople, so probably not. There are actually like descriptions of in like the 1600s of like materials which are described as being very similar to Greek fire. So there are like, and they I think they actually describe using like raw oil, but like they have like incendiary weapons which were able to burn on the sea, like burn on the ocean, which sounds very similar to Greek fire if you read like the descriptions. Oh yeah, we're actually starting to catch up to the George Shelbach. Almost. I'll spell it for you here in the comments. There we go. Fiat Fate, any Baltic pirates? There were definitely a lot of Baltic pirates in the Middle Ages when the Baltic wasn't consolidated and there basically weren't any pirate hunters. But like when the Baltic was consolidated in the 1500s, then piracy was like extinguished, and there were like no after then there were like no pirates in the Baltic. A lot of smugglers, like there were a lot of like alcohol smugglers in the 1930s. Like Finland actually had its own prohibition, like America, and they just like they forbade alcohol, so people started smuggling alcohol because the Finns love alcohol. They love vodka. Midnight Lemon asked, capturing ships is a key part of being a pirate, but what does the capture of a ship actually look like? Does the defeated captain pull out a horn and order his men to stop fighting? Usually, like you wouldn't fight like one-on-one like you see in the movies, where it's like people are scattered about and it's like fighting with each other. Usually, it's like you're all in one group and fighting together, and then like you all together, just like when you decide you want to surrender, you say like, yeah, we give up, and they in the period they say like they called for quarter, so they would call out like mercy, mercy, or like we surrender, or quarter, quarter, literally just yell for quarter. So he wouldn't like order his men to stand down. He would like they were in a group and they could like surrender together. That would usually like be how it would look like, and then they would just like they would probably tell them to like drop their weapons and then just like walk out and stand out in a line. Okay, would you be able to hear that over the fighting? Yeah, I hope I answered your question. I'm just gonna turn on the lights. It's getting a bit dark. I do have a lamp here. I think that's good. That looks kind of cozy. That looks kind of cozy. I like it. I hope you guys like my pumpkins in the background. I love pumpkins. They're delicious. Dampere collection is out of stock. Damn. I'm not talking about his music. All right. Well, I don't know anything about Kanye. He's probably a nice guy. I haven't met him. ABS, do you listen to the Pirate History podcast? No, I haven't. T-Bone, thanks for all the videos. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much. Guess Caligula, I think he just reads the Wikipedia. Who does? Arcade asks, which pirates do you dislike? Also, which pirates? I don't really dislike any of them. I don't think I dislike any historical figure because who am I to judge like someone who has existed? I mean, I don't really dislike anyone today either. It's like I don't think I'm in a position to judge anyone, especially not historical people. I think it's like very wrong to like dislike someone historically who are like made decisions based on like their own situation. Also, which pirates do you consider being the worst human beings? I mean, there were definitely like a lot of them who like just killed people like arbitrarily and randomly. But then again, they often did it for like their own reasons, like they were traumatized. Like people, usually when people talk about brutal pirates, they usually talk about Ned Lowe and what's his face, the one who stands like a cut with a cutlass like this, the Olney. Yeah, that's right, Olney. Francois Olney. I think his real name was actually John Now or something. Anyway, John Now was like abused by the Spanish. He was like captured. All of his friends were killed. so he wanted to revenge on them. That was his reason for brutality. He was traumatized. And Ned Lowe, Ned Lowe was also, he wouldn't like hurt anyone who was married. If he knew they were married, he would like not, or I might be wrong, but he definitely showed respect towards people who were married, and he wouldn't press gang people who were married because he was married himself, and I think he had a daughter. I don't remember exactly. So even these people who did like very bad things and tortured people, they do have a good side. And every person is like a collection of like good deeds and bad deeds and good feats, and you have to like judge all of these individually. I don't think you can really decide if a person is altogether bad. You have to judge like their actions individually. Some people do good things, some people do bad things. But of course, if someone does something really bad, you probably have to execute them for it. Like if someone goes around like torturing people, it's probably best if you execute them for that, just to prevent other people from doing it. But it doesn't mean that they're like at their core that they're a bad person. I think that's like a wrong. I don't really view people in that manner. Torquemada asked, what's the most important shipyard in the Caribbean during the first half of the 17th century? For the Spanish, it was definitely the Havana shipyard. It was very important. They built a lot of ships there. Then they also had a shipyard in, I don't remember which city on the, it's not in the Caribbean, it's in South America on the west coast in like Peru. I don't remember what it was named, but it was also very important, where they made a lot of big ships actually. I don't know, like, I don't actually know, like, I don't think they had like a lot of colonial shipyards, big ones. Yeah, oh yeah, actually I do. They made a lot of ships on Bermuda. Like Bermuda was definitely like the most important shipbuilder in like the 17th century. During the first half, during the first half of the 17th century, the French and the English, they just built like small boats, so you didn't really need a shipyard. You could just like have something like local. Shipyards in like the English and French colonies came about in the late 17th and like early 18th century, and then it was Bermuda. Like Bermuda made really good sloops, and they exported their sloops, and people would, even in like Spain and stuff, they bought their sloops. I talk about it in detail in the sloop video, so I would recommend you check that out. John Doe, any pirates run money counterfeiting operations? I don't think so, but they definitely like clipped the edges of the money with like giant tongs, and then like they like melted it down. That was like very common. Platypi Pope asks again, how did pirates generally treat missionaries and other religious figures if they gave them any consideration at all? That a lot of pirates were like religious extremists, like most people in the 1600s. Religion was like the big thing back then, and people weren't really tolerant. There's definitely a lot of cases of like pirates abusing people of other religions, like Catholics especially. So like during the Pacific Adventure, they just like executed a Spanish priest for no reason and stuff like that, and vice versa. Like the Spanish, like they always like they used like Lutheran as an insult against their enemies and stuff like that. So people were not religiously tolerant. Of course, there's a lot of gray lines. Like a lot of the French buccaneers who cooperated with Protestant English buccaneers were actually Catholics. A lot of them were Huguenots, so Protestant Calvinists actually, but a lot of them were Catholics as well. And even then, so you have like Protestant Englishmen and Catholic Frenchmen attacking Catholic Spaniards and actually committing atrocities against them. And like there was like after the sack of Cartagena, I think. No, Veracruz. It was Veracruz. After the sack of Veracruz, I think in 1683, they did capture a few of the French Catholics, the Spaniards did. And they asked them at the trial, we know you're Catholics. Why did you do this stuff? They're so bewildered by it. And, they got a point. But a lot of the French Catholics, they would attack Spanish Catholic churches, and they would take the iconography and the chalices and stuff for their own French churches, from one church to another. Otto asked, when will you do a face reveal? Cannot confirm. Turtle soup, yeah, turtle soup sounds delicious. Gilberto Trinidad asked, what level is below vice captain? There was no rank as vice captain. Fred said, I remember my pirate teacher telling me the US used pirates against the British in the War of 1812. Yeah, they had privateers. Miriam Gregorio asked opinions on A Nation of Pirates, English Pirates in its heyday by Clive Senior. I haven't read it. There's a lot of Pirates book I haven't read. Lady Ty, even the clockbait Pirates. I presume you mean clickbait. No, at its end, I don't really. I mean, I dislike when people say stuff which they don't know anything about, or like when they say stuff which just we know isn't true if you research it seriously. If they just like get her history from Wikipedia or like directly quote it, that stuff is. But it's not about the actual people themselves, like the actual pirates or the actual historical figures. It's about these people like just presenting like stuff which isn't true. And people are gonna say like, oh, how do you know what's true? And yeah, you can modify history, but it's like some stuff, we can trace it where it comes from, and we can pretty much just confirm that is, just bullshit. Internet historian reads the Wikipedia. No, an internet historian, he does like have a lot of books as sources. And I do remember him having like a lot of sources in the Steve Bonnet video, but his videos are for entertainment. I mean, my videos are meant for entertainment also. You should know that like my videos they're pretty much like documentaries, and documentaries are not like made to like really, it's primarily meant for entertainment. So if you really want to learn about a topic, you need to go to like the source materials. You need to read books. My videos and everyone else's videos, it's for entertainment. It's just that uh, I'm pedantic about this stuff, and it's the real history which interests me. John Berger said, "I got a screenshot that golden gunpowder Wojak for the Discord or something." You gotta find it. You gotta find it in the playback. I'm not gonna do it for you. Crypto fans said Ned Lowe had a daughter. Yeah, he did. I definitely get strong PTSD vibes from him. His behavior hints at someone who really did love his wife who had died and went nuts because of it. Yeah, definitely. So I don't think it's right to like say he's a bad person or whatever. It's like he did bad things, but he had his reasons, and he probably did like a lot of good things. Uh, I know his crew at some point they were discarded, like, and there were also like cases when like he invited people aboard and they just had a drink and whatever, and he could be chill. It was just he was kind of like unhinged. um but calling, I don't think it's right to call someone like a bad person. It's, you have to look at their actions. Miriam Gregorio, what about music that pirates used to play on ships or taverns? Yeah, we know definitely what like instruments they use, and they talk a lot about the instruments. Usually it was drums and trumpets. Drums and trumpets are usually used for like keeping up a rhythm. Trumpets are usually used for like signaling and for announcing stuff, like when you're going ashore or you're going aboard another ship or whatever. um, but they also had like musical instruments. I actually have a playlist on my channel if you go and check it out, and I've compiled like samples of instruments from the period, and a lot of them are really old, like jaw harps, which is like a piece of iron pretty much, which you like string and you like fiddle like this, and it goes like wang 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 wang, and it's an ancient instrument. Draculina Lilith asks, your beard and such is very swag. Thank you very much. I'm gonna shave though, because I prefer to go clean shaved. I'm gonna keep the hair though. I like to have long hair. Alchemy asked, how far from the land pirates sail distance wise, and did they sail at night or ships stopped at night? Uh, no, they sail at night. It, as far as I know, they had like some did have like bedtimes, but they had like usually like they had like hours which like rotated around the clock, so you worked in like 4 hour shifts. So, but there might be someone who like knows more about it than I do. Pancake said, Jingy, am I misremembering, or did you say you were in the armed service at one point? Yeah, I mean, I am still in the National Guard. I'm just not as active as I used to be because I have so much going on. But yeah, last year especially, I was very active in the National Guard, but not so much anymore. I might have to leave it even because like I just have so much stuff going on. Pat XY did a $20 super chat. Thank you very much, Pat. Thank you very much for the super chat. And I think I've seen you in the comments as well. Geo asked, what did pirates do for fun when they had spare time on a ship? So much stuff. They would usually drink. They usually drank alcohol. But I have a video about it, what the life was like aboard a pirate ship. It's a few months old. I'd suggest checking that one out. But most of them just drank alcohol. But they could, yeah, watch that video. Is what I'd recommend. Antoine Monks asked, "What advice would you give someone wanting to write historical pirate fiction?" I mean, just write a good book. Just have like you should focus on having like a good story, which would be like the story, whatever the setting is for your story, it should be a good story at its core. It should be a good story, and then everything else you add around is pretty much just fluff. But and of course, like the setting like does open up new like a setting does open up like new options. Like if your book is setting during the golden age of piracy, you can talk about things which were relevant to that period and like. But ultimately, I do think like fiction is about like exploring the human condition. So if you write historical fiction, I think I mean, in my opinion, it's really about exploring the human condition in like a different context than our own. But yeah, so if you want to if you want to write in a historical setting, research this period. Like you research it so much, like just research it. But at its core, you need to have a good story, and a good story should be a good story in whatever setting it is. Jean Berger said, "That portrait of Francois Lalonnais drives me crazy. The crayons are backwards. How did they get that wrong?" Yeah, those illustrations are pretty silly. Vargold said, "How long did it take to build the bigger ships of the period on average? How long would it take to build a proper port and shipyard in major colonies? How hard was it usually to?" A gunpowder was. I haven't actually. I do have manuals which describe gunpowder production, but I haven't like. I will probably cover it in like the grenade video, fireworks video. Uh, how long it would build ships? I actually don't know. I know about how long it would take to build a canoe. A canoe you could build in like 1 or 2 weeks, even shorter. But not the big ships. I haven't looked into it. Pencil Collector said, "What are good online sources to learn about pirates?" There are a lot of good like blogs actually made by historians. David Fictum has a good blog. Benison Lil has a very good blog. Cindy Valor, excellent blog. She's been around forever. Like when you think pirate internet, Cindy Valor is the one you should go to. She has very good blogs. There are probably more, but those are like the three at the top of my mind. Yes, some dude said edutainment. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, my videos, that's how I classify them, edutainment, pretty much. Nathaniel Iron, if you had to write a fictional story based on real pirates, which pirate would you choose and why? I did actually write like fictionalized account about Bartholomew Sharp and like the Battle of Arica. It's set only like during the Battle of Arica, so like within like 8 hours. But I think it's better like if you write, it's better to have like write your own characters than trying to imagine what like real people were like. But I definitely think like if you want to write historical fiction about like real pirates, it's best to do like Bartholomew Sharp and the Basil Ringrose and those guys and William Dampier, just because like they wrote so much stuff about themselves and they wrote about their adventures and other people wrote about them. So yeah, you can actually get like a very deep insight into what these people were like. And I have like a very strong impression myself of what these people were like. And I know like some other people do, like Bennerson has like, he knows what they were, he has a feeling what they were like. And the same with, I spoke with a fiction writer, Mike. He also wrote about them. Ilya Loki asked, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Loki, maybe. If pirates sailed, Ilya, definitely. If pirates sailed on a sloop, did they sleep in the hold over the cargo or on the main deck? They mostly slept on the open deck because the air was fresher. Versing asked, "Hello, hello. Why would someone finance a privateer expedition?" Because the returns, like you would make a lot of money. Like if the privateers, like you could get like if you invested, you could get like a hundred times or 10 times the like return. Like it was very profitable. Like they go out, they plunder, they take goods, they take a ship, they come back, and you guys together you sell it and they split the money. And usually like if they could capture like even just 1 or 2 or 3 ships, you would look at like a huge return in investment. Private investing in privateering was very profitable. Why put money on a captain who would turn to piracy? Yeah, that you would definitely you were more likely to invest in a captain who had a good reputation. So if a captain had a bad reputation, like they would be up to shady stuff, you probably wouldn't trust them. You would probably so you would usually invest like someone who had a good reputation, had a lot of stakes in society, that were less likely to turn pirate. It's getting dark, so I'm just gonna turn on my light squib. God damn it, my ass hurts from just sitting in the same position for so long. That might actually be too bright. Actually, it might not. There we go. Yeah, tell me if it's too bright. Actually, if I'm sitting like this, I'm kind of like blocking the lamp, so you guys kind of get a good view. In a perfect world, I would have like the lamp sort of in front of me, so I would get blinded, but you guys wouldn't get blinded. Please tell me please tell me in the chat if it's like too bright, and I'll turn off the light. Antoine Monks asks, how much can we trust a general history of the pirates? If you're looking to read into a biography, usually like you can, for the stuff which is real in a general history, a lot of it like, okay, I'm gonna rephrase this because it's if you're looking to like learn about a specific pirate's story, like his biography, you should not read a general history. It's better to look at because there's so many other documents about these specific pirates which usually like describe their story. And what general history did was basically take these other documents and then either make stuff up or like embellish them. General history is really good, however, if you want to like research the attitudes of pirates on the period, if you would just want to learn about their tactics, because the author obviously had a lot of knowledge about this and a lot about the sailing terminology and like about the region, and also just about a lot of stuff which pirates actually did. Like general history described them, having like a silk sling and then a pistol tied to it, called a pirate fashion. And, archaeology has proven this as being something they actually did. So, as a summary, if you want to learn about the history of a specific pirate, don't read general history, or you can read it, but be critical. And if you want to learn about the attitude towards pirates and the culture of pirates, then yeah, it's good. But everything in it should be taken with a pinch of salt. Thanks for answering my questions. Yeah, good day. I'm glad I was able to answer them. I'm going to go. Yeah, goodbye, Caligula. Nice to see you. Since no one has said anything about the lamp, I hope it's not too bright. If it is too bright, I'll turn it off. But please tell me in the comments. I have played a jaw harp. It hurts. Yeah, I know some people have said it hurts. Undead ban. Did Asian countries like China, Korea, or Japan also commit piracy in the Caribbean? No, they didn't. Like they were like very isolationist. They stuck to their own like regions. They had pirates definitely, but they didn't like go very far abroad at all. They stuck to like their own seas. There might have been some pirates who were of Asian origin. We don't know for certain, but it's possible because Spain, basically, here's how it would have worked. Spain had colonies in Asia. They would send like galleons with like Asian produce over across the Pacific Sea to Mexico. And of course, for this galleon, they would recruit Asian sailors, mostly people from the Philippines, aboard ships. So it would usually be like Filipinos, pretty much, but maybe some other Asians. And they would have ended up in Asia. Some of them settled down in Mexico. There are a lot of people of Asian descent in Latin America, so like Central America and like South America and Mexico. Of course, a lot of them came in the 1800s, but so yeah, it's not impossible to have like some pirates, or especially Spanish like privateers, who would have been of Asian descent. Nathaniel Iron asked, did pirates build their own fusil boucanier? No, they had like gunsmiths do it. The lamp makes you look like a religious icon. If you wore that hat, it would cover the glow. Yeah, I guess that's a clue for me to turn off the lamp. I'm not gonna wear a hat indoors. It's impolite. I'll turn on my other lamp though. I have this like cozy lamp. It is getting dark. It is getting dark. I'm just sitting here in the shadows. This is period accurate lighting, except for the lamps. Platypi Pope, how much do you know about general nautical history outside of the golden age of piracy? Not too much, actually. I don't really care about it. I mean, it's not really the nautical thing aspect about pirates which interests me. It's mostly the like culture and economics. Need to buy SSD. Thank you very much for your videos. Thank you for watching them. Were corvette ships common in the golden age of piracy? Okay, so during the corvette during the 1600s, so for most of the golden age of piracy, was like a French term which they used for a type of ship which was like I think the English called it brigantine. So it was like, but even like the brigantine, barquilon, it was like a bunch of terms for like vessels that were similar but could mean a lot. But for the most part, it was like a type of hull, which was long and it was sharp and it was like fast and it was very good for it was very speedy and good for rowing, optimized for rowing. So it was probably quite straight, definitely quite straight. But these vessels could be decked. They might not even have a deck. They could have any type of rigging, usually two masts. And some of these were called corvettes by the French. The English did not call them corvettes. The English adapted the term corvette in the like mid to late 1700s. 2000 David Kang asked, "Are there paintings of ship interiors with people doing their stuff similar to tavern interiors?" There are a few sketches, but I've seen next. At the top of my mind, I don't have any paintings. I do have like some paintings which are, but there are actually some paintings of like inside cabins and stuff, and you usually see them in my videos, but it's not as common as like paintings of the exterior. Music Canal asked, "Do you ever plan to create longer videos that are more general?" No, I prefer these videos at the moment, which are like 20 to 30, sort of 10 to 30 minutes and cover like a specific topic. I don't really like going general. I prefer going in depth about a topic. Let's find some more. Just reading the chat here for some questions. Josway asked, "Do you think Robert L. Stevenson based Treasure Island on actual historical events? And if so, yeah, he did. He took a lot of inspiration from General History. He said General History was a great book, but he also based it on some other events of like mutineers, like people mutineering and stealing treasure and burying it. People give a lot of it. People make a lot of claims about which one in particular. There's like the Tale of Norman Island, for example. But yeah, he was definitely inspired by history." Ratch Darastrix asked, "This time not a joke referencing Peter Pan." Yeah, I don't know if you people are joking because like it's like hard to detect if like people are being sarcastic or ironic in text. So I had to answer questions or don't answer them. Was there blacksmithing on board a pirate ship? They had armorers, and armorers were able to like repair equipment, but usually like you didn't really have forges. If you wanted to do metal work, you did it on shore, and they did sometimes like when careening or repairing the ships, they did sometimes build like forges for like melting down metal work and like making nails and stuff. So yeah, they had blacksmiths aboard. Patex, right? The glow is fine. Don't let the comment section dictate your stream, Captain. No, I want you. I mean, it's your viewing experience, and I'm fine with sitting in the darkness. I usually kind of sit like this. Pancakes. How's the Swedish uniform regs? I'm not sure what you mean by regs for the National Guard. Okay, yeah, I understand. So like, your hair and facial hair would be considered way out of regs here in the US. No, it's like, okay, so when I did like basic training, I had to shave every day. They didn't care about the hair. You could have long hair in like if you wanted to, but like they at one point they like bought us like one of those like bus shavers and like with a leather on it, and it's like, here, you can cut your hairs now. So it's like, and it was like, it was nice to have like short hair in the during basic. But in the National Guard, like National Guard is so relaxed, like it's so like guerrilla. It's just so like paramilitary. Like everyone has a beard in the National Guard here in Sweden. But like the National Guard in Sweden is incredibly competent. Like it's a very good. Well, it depends, but like the company I'm in is incredibly competent. There's like um, a lot of former, I guess we call them jägare in Swedish, which is like, I guess it's equivalent of the Rangers in the US. It literally means like hunters, so it's like special troops, s- special forces. So like the National Guard in Sweden is like a lot of competent people, but you can do, it's very like free, which is kind of what's nice about it. Is like, and it is kind of a piratical organization in a way. Ilya Locke asked, what kind of ship was the Blessed Trinity of Bartholomew Sharp? If it was a galleon, why she was so fast? I mean, she was not a galleon because like galleons were like huge, like treasure ships or like huge cargo ships, and the Trinity weighed like, I think like 500. She had like a displacement of 500 tons burden, which is like, it's pretty small. And like the galleons were like, had like 1,000 tons burden and more, usually like 1,200. So it was like, I don't think they, I think that, I don't know what they would have called her yet. Like they just called her a ship, they just call her a ship. But we know she had like a high back sections. So we can pretty much, but she would have looked like most just ships from the period. But they cut down the like back, most of the back sections, and like basically made her like flushed. So like straight from stem to stern. But it's like ship types, it's kind of like hard to describe in the period because like they were like very inconsistent with this stuff. Geo asked, was leather in a bottle made up, or did people really use it as a form of communication? I don't know, actually. I haven't heard about it from the period. John Burgart asked, the Battle of Cape Economus did have many ramming ships. Yeah, I think that's an ancient battle. Did rammers exist in the Golden Age? No, they didn't ram. It wasn't like a tactic. You would, if you rammed, you would have damaged your own ship. You would have damaged the bowsprit. Definitely risked damaging the bowsprit and thus much of the rigging. And even like in the Mediterranean, like rams were abandoned. Like they didn't even have rams on galleys in like the Middle Ages. Galleys were centered around like artillery and boarding combat. Platypi Pope asked, how often were pirate captains able to command personal loyalty among their crew? There's definitely a lot of crews which like respected their. I mean, it's hard to say. But Bartholomew Roberts definitely seems to have been one of those parts, which is like they like respected him as a person, and when he died, they were like hugely demoralized by it. So it's definitely like, if you were like charismatic and if you were capable, they definitely would have like developed some sort of like cult of personality around you, and that always happens in these sorts of like organizations. I'm gonna I'm gonna turn on the lights because like I just look like some sort of ghost, like it's just a shadow. There we go. I'm so inconsistent, but Uh, there we go. Now you guys can see me actually. How old are you? I'm born in 1998. Period correct 100%. Antoine Monks asked, do you think it's bad that lots of people get inaccurate history from films and TV? I think the problem is mostly like that it's kind of rare to teach people like to think critically. And like if you know how to think critically and like know like where am I getting my information from? Like you would probably know that like, yeah, it's a movie. I probably shouldn't learn too much about it, but I don't really care. I don't really care what people do. Like I just like care about what I do about my stuff. And then if other people want to get interested in the real history, then that's really good. That's nice, but whatever. It would be. I think movies and stuff are definitely like a good way to like teach real. Um, I think definitely like movies and stuff are like a great method of like teaching people about history. So it would be nice if like, and like I've said before in some videos, you don't meaning a movie is historical doesn't mean it's bad. Like there are so many movies I know of which are historically accurate and are great movies. Like Treasure Island from 1990. It's very historically authentic, and it's a great movie. It's really good. And like there are a lot of like good like books which are historical. Of course, there's a lot of like books which aren't historically accurate but are trash. But there's also like historically inaccurate stuff which is absolute garbage. um, So yeah, it would be nice. I mean, it would be nice if people would like use these mediums to actually like teach people about actual stuff, so you could like have fun, but also learn something. And I do think fiction. The purpose of fiction is to contextualize and learn more about the human condition in different environments. So it would be, but of course, a lot of people just use like media to just like sell you something which doesn't really do much. And I mean, if you're interested in that, that's fine. And if people want to watch that, like they can do whatever they want. I'm really just talking about from my own perspective what I enjoy. Hope I'm not rambling too much. I mean, we've been sitting here for like 2 hours now. um, Hope you guys are having fun. That I'm answering your questions. Otto, what are your thoughts about modern pints? I don't really have any opinion on it. Pat XY asked, have you ever thought about doing a video? Oh yeah, it's one of those. I'm sorry, I can't answer these questions. I mean, in and around Bermuda, I wish I could talk more about Bermuda. Bermuda is very interesting, and especially like the shipbuilding industry that they had. That's what I'm most interested about Bermuda. But I do talk about it in the sloop video, so I would recommend that one. Arcade asked, are there any conspiracy theories about pirates never existing? I don't know. Platypi Pope, have you ever played Sid Meier's Pirates? Yeah, I have. It's pretty fun. Josue said, I've heard that most sailors during the age of sail could not swim. Does this apply equally to pirates? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of like debates on like if sailors and pirates could swim, but it seems like a lot of them definitely could swim. Maybe some couldn't, but some say that most of them couldn't swim. Others say that most of them could swim. I don't know. Tyler is having fun. That's great. Antoine Monks, thanks so much for the answers. Yeah, no problem. I'm glad I'm able to answer your questions. Just gonna have a chug jug here. There we go. Are there any records of the song and music recorded from what they used to play on? I haven't heard about it. There are definitely like songs, like I know like E.T. Fox. He made a video about like songs which were popular in the period that were likely sung by pirates, but there's like nothing confirmed which like they would have sung. I know that like Henry Avery, when Henry Avery like did a mutiny aboard the Charles II, the ship which would become the Fancy, the code word for launching the mutiny was like the lyrics from a song, and they mentioned which song it was, but I don't remember the name at the top of my head. I think I'm gonna go on for like 20 more minutes. I'm starting to get tired, so we'll take 20 more minutes, and then we'll have to round off. But it seems like there's a lot of interest in the streams. We kind of maintain like a sort of stable viewership throughout the entire stream. So I think we'll do more of these in the future, but I'll probably like, is a drunken bosun on board? Yeah, I know you did like your every video crew to fancy, so that's probably the one. Might have been. And I might have also mixed it up with every, because there are I think there was like another mutiny where they mentioned like they had like the lyrics of a song. So definitely, but yeah, could look it up in the future. 2008, David Kang asked, "What's the craziest weapons used by pirates and privateers?" If I remember correctly, George von Reichwein had an 8-shot flintlock revolver in the 16th century. So I wonder if repeating weapons or other crazy weapons were used. They definitely didn't use like the repeating flintlock firearms, because these were so like complicated, and like these like, for one, these like repeating firearms, they were hard to produce. They were very expensive, and you needed some like trading to use them. So it was, during the period, it was only really given to like guard forces for like palace guards and stuff for kings. craziest weapons was probably like the incendiary weaponry they had, like the explosive weaponry they had. Like some of the stuff described was just so weird, like, you know, fire wheels, like a wheel on fire which you throw and stuff like that. It's not, I don't know how much they use them. Like one journal, like one dictionary said that like fire arrows were, or fire darts were a common pirate weapon, and also like all the weird like cannon ammunition, a lot of weird stuff like that. Geo, did pirates fight in groups of ships to attack and capture a big ship? Yeah, they did. Often like it was often that they like sailed in concert. Torquemada's, did individual arms dealers as we understand them today exist in the 17th century? And if yes, are there any recorded interactions between pirates and these weapon smugglers? Uh, yeah, for one, there were like a lot of arms dealers, like weapon shops in Port Royal, where they would import and sell weapons. There was also like very common for like the smugglers in New York to New York basically had a trade deal set up with Madagascar, which a lot of pirates used as bases, and uh, it was very common for these smugglers to sell the fusil boucanier, so the buccaneer gun, to the pirates on Madagascar. So that, and that's of course a type of arms dealing. And those like transactions are quite well documented, at least what they traded. They would also trade like limes for making rum punch, rum of course, and like clothes like hats and shoes and stuff. Tush asked, did I'm sorry if I'm not mispronouncing your name again. I think it's Guk at least. Guktusu maybe? I think it's Guk at least, the first one. I'm not sure how to pronounce that like weird C. Gis maybe. Did pirates attack other pirates? There are like some cases where they had like rivalries, but it was like I don't think there's like any incident of like pirate crews, like pirate ships attacking other pirate ships. Privateers would attack other pirates, of course, but they like especially of course if they were pirate hunters. But pirates wouldn't attack other pirates because it's just like what is the meaning of it? Like both of you they know pirates want to avoid fighting as much as possible because you know they don't want to get killed. So like it's just not like profitable and it's like dangerous. It's a high risk. And you know, piracy is all about like investing as little as possible, like risking as little as possible, and earning as much as possible. That's basically it. And you know, piracy, yeah, that's basically it. Space Monkey says, "Stay sane, stay safe, and stay dangerous, people." Yeah, right back at you. Over the Hills and Far Away was popular with Spanish succession vets, so they probably sang it. Yeah, probably. It was a popular song. It's a very nice song as well. I love it. Also, Lily Bolero, you know, they probably did that one as well. Lily Bolero is very good. In Treasure Island, it mentions that a pirate is whistling Lily Bolero, but you know, it's a fictional novel, but still. Gish Tusk, how much can we trust the general history of the pirates? I already responded to it, so I don't want to go through it again. But yeah, it's not like you shouldn't rely on it for research. You can use it as an auxiliary method, and if you have other stuff which can confirm what it says, then you know it's good. Just wait at Funkus. I think you were being sarcastic. Maybe someone's being sarcastic. I always take like what you're saying literally because you know some people everyone communicates in like a unique manner. Knut Lindstrom asked, did they make Molotov cocktails or maybe they had a different name for it? They had incendiary weapons, but they were different from Molotov cocktails. I will make a video about it next year, which I will talk more about it. Or it might not come out yet next year, but I will in the future make a video about these sorts of weaponry. Vargold, how hard was it to make a cannon in the period? How expensive were they usually? How rare were the large cannons used by navies to attack heavy targets? How hard was it to make a cannon in the period? I don't know exactly. Like they had new casting techniques that came about in the late 17th century that made it cheaper to produce heavy iron guns. So they became easier and cheaper to make, at least in the mid to late 17th century. How expensive were they usually? I don't really know, but like that depends on the size, of course. Pirates and merchants and privateers, they usually used light cannons that were the cheapest, the lightest, and the ammo was also cheaper. You needed less powder for them. You needed less like ammunition. You could also, of course, they also used a lot of improvised ammo because they were poor, both merchants and pirates, privateers. And the cannons used in the navies were usually 18 pounders or above. Um Usually like above 24. It was mentioned that like 18 pounders weren't able to like pierce through the wooden hull of like a proper ship in the navy. Um 2008 David Kang. Were there any records of how pirates got their info? Did they have some sort of pirate/privateer spy network? That's a very interesting question. It's something which is hard to answer. They would, of course, like if they captured a ship, they would like, of course, operate along like common trade routes, like routes which people would like usually travel for trade. So like if you for example look at like the Florida passage between like Florida and like Mexico, or like Florida and Cuba, I guess. But like ships going from Mexico, that's like a passage because it's like a pretty small area of space. Like if you would go out to the open sea, it's a pretty rare chance if you would encounter another ship. So they would stick to like coasts, to islands, to routes which people traveled. And they could also, if they captured a ship, they could like torture the people aboard or like just ask them nicely. They resorted to torture. People didn't. Torture was an interrogation tool. They could get information like, "Have you seen any other ships?" They could also stick close to harbors, close to ports. And they were also like they could also have like informants in ports. There were a lot of like Spanish speaking Jews on Jamaica, which had trade contacts with like the Spanish colonies, and they would have like, of course, information about ships and such, which the pirates could rob. Eleanor said, "Damn, you're good looking, lol." Sorry. Oh, thank you. You don't have to apologize. Thank you for the comment. Compliment, not a comment. I'm getting tired. Miriam Gregorio said, "What are the main sources we have today about Golden Age pirates? Exquemelin, Diary, Journal History, Dampers Journal, and it's a lot of trial documents. So like the trials of pirates. It's also like newspaper articles from the period. Also like just and letters. Some people have, but it's usually like trial documents, um, newspaper articles, and then like also government reports. Those are usually the most common reliable ones. Also, archaeology is very good, like from shipwrecks, from Port Royal, and stuff like that. And also, the journals are, of course, a huge source, like Dampier, but also like regular mariners and people who encountered pirates. And Nathaniel Aaron said, which games pirates played for killing time on land, on boat and land? So on land, they played billiard. Billiard was different. They had like golf clubs almost. They also played cards of different sorts. They could have played cards on the ships also. Rodriguez said occasionally baptism and burial records. Yeah, that's also true. It's not as common as the other ones though. Other games, dice was very common. That's about it. Bluebell said, "What sources do you use for your research?" I use a mix of like period documents, so like the journals, trials, letters, government reports, stuff like that, and then like contemporary. And then like I use like pop history books, which are like compiling other heavier research books, or even like period books. And then like serious research books, like serious modern history books. I use research papers on like archaeology around the period and stuff like that. So like a lot, it's like a mixed bag of everything. And usually you can find. I always list my sources in the video description, with a few exceptions, like the videos where I like analyze like the movies and whatever. I don't have sources in those because I'm analyzing a movie. It's not really a serious video. But yeah, you'll find the sources in the period in my video descriptions, and I always like separate between like I have like a separate section for like contemporary, so like stuff from the period, and then stuff from our modern day. Joshua says I'm off to work. Yeah, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed. Good luck. Geek asked, Gish, did pirates mistake other pirates as prizes since they did not fly? Oh yeah, it definitely happened. But the thing is, like, pirates and privateers, they would usually behave in like a very like predictable manner. Like they would sail fast and like light ships, and they would like bear down as they would like come on rapidly, sail rapidly towards the ship. So you could usually like you would usually know they were a pirate or a privateer, which is why so many of them didn't need to use black flags. But yeah, there are incidents of like pirates like shooting at each other and then like realizing, oh, both of them are pirates, and they're like, hey man, what's up? And they have a drink and they hang out, and maybe they sail together for a while. There are incidents of that happening, yeah. Pat XY said, would you ever want to do a Sea of Thieves playthrough? No, I don't play Sea of Thieves, never tried it. And I'm not going to do playthroughs on my channel. My channel isn't about gaming, it's about history documentaries. Arcade, do we know what pirates dreamed? Nothing they wrote about. The Vikings were more about talking about dreams in their sagas. Unknown Trooper said, yeah, and that's the first question, I think. Or, I'm sorry if you posted any questions and I missed them. Has YouTube ever caused you problems like with some other history channels? No, YouTube is very nice to me. And I talk about like pretty edgy topics, and I talk about dark stuff, and I talk openly about slavery and like sexual violence and like torture and stuff. But YouTube is like very lenient towards me. I haven't had any problems with them. The surgeon video, when I uploaded it, it got like partially blocked because it said like, oh, it talks about a sensitive topic. And I just contacted them and said like, yeah, it's not sensitive, it's about surgeons. And they said sure, and it's fully monetized before I released it. So they sometimes the algorithm makes a mistake, but it's always able to correct it. I've never had problems. At one point, I got copyright struck by an artist because they didn't want me to use his painting, and that's fine. We just talked about it and said, sure, can we? I offered him like if he wanted like payment or something, but he said like no. I was like, it's fine or whatever. So I took the video down. It was the video on Jamaica, and I wanted to remake it anyway, so it's fine. Gio asked, how would a pirate become a captain? I released a video recently about this. Versing said, hello, I'm back. Hello. I was watching your video about the Golden Age. You said there was a time pirates almost stopped slave trade in Madagascar, I think. They're planning doing a video about it. No, they never stopped the slave trade. They perpetuated the slave trade, and they like traded a lot of slaves. Even when they like attacked British slave ships and put a stop to the British slave trade, it was so they still sold the slaves to like independent plantations and probably the Portuguese and the Spanish. Nathaniel Iron, thanks for sharing with us your knowledge. Oh, no problem. I'm glad I'm able to share it. Frequency IO said, flying gang work together. Fights between crews were personal, not mistaken identity. There are like pretty much no incidents of like crews fighting. If pirates fought, it was like two individuals who had like a personal dispute, but like crews would like never fight. It's completely illogical. Like, why? It's like, why? They want to steal stuff from merchants. Why would they fight each other? It's like they just risk dying. They're not going to make a huge profit. It's more effective if they sail together and take ships. There's definitely a lot of cases where they like have like disputes like between companies, but they would just like split up amicably and say, okay, we can agree to disagree, but we're not going to like sail together anymore. It's like a breakup. You don't have to kill your spouse over a breakup. Actively random asks, is there a ship version of Cabin Fever? Probably. They do get like Cabin Fever in like the Muppet Treasure Island movie. Pancakes, see you all another time. Peace. Yeah, goodbye. Nice to see you. Right, well, that's all. Finally, all the questions in the chat. There was like a lot of questions. I didn't expect to get so many questions in the chat, but I hope I was able, you guys were able to get something out of it. We can stick out for like I'll end it at like in 2 minutes. See if there are any more questions. Yeah, here's one question from Vargold. Were there any instances that you read heard about where a vessel had only alcoholic drinks instead of water? Not me as strong stuff, but also things like weak beer. Yeah, I mean that was like if you were like sailing across the ocean, that was like the norm, like especially on merchant ships, because the water would just spoil. So you would just like stock up with like weak beer, as you say, like small beer, as they called it, so you could hydrate. Definitely happened. The golden gunpowder Wojak is called. Oh man, I've truly become a soy boy. Kurt fans, I got a little suing done listening. Oh, that's great. I'm really glad that when people like do something productive with the videos or like stuff. And also, I really admire people who like do creative stuff. Which is like what I've said with the videos. I do try to structure my videos in a way so like to inspire people to do stuff. I was drunk when I got my Blackbeard tattoo, you know, the supposed Blackbeard flag. Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Okay, so the Marlin spike I can make after the naval axe. Sounds cool. Is there any female parts you do find interesting as your opinions on Bonnie Reed and Xingxi are well known? Uh, I mean, I wouldn't like. I know which video you're referring to. I do kind of want to delete that video because at the same time, I'm kind of just keeping up. I mean, partly because it makes me a lot of money, which is a shame. I wish it had gotten no views at all. Um, do find it interesting. Yeah. I mean, Bonnie and Reed is like the thing with Bonnie and Reed is just like we just don't know anything about them. We know that they were aboard John Rackham's ship. They wore clothes. They threatened a poor woman with murder. And then like Reed died, and like Bonnie, we don't know what happened to her. There's just like we just don't know anything about them at all. Pretty much all the like stuff about their backgrounds and what happened after them is like it's made up, you know. The trial documents is like the trial document for them, which like describes what they did, is like 2 pages long, and it's like this. Most of it is just like them repeating stuff. I asked like I'll answer the David Kang's question, then I'll quit the stream. Was there any usage of shield-like implements for? I'll incite that video from my paper aspect. Yeah, I'm glad you did. I don't think it's a high quality video. I don't tend to make like radical decisions. I tend to make. I'm more of like making ultimate decisions over time. Like a lot of my older videos, I like unlisted them so people could still watch them, and then eventually I made them private, and then I deleted them. You know. I'm sorry, David Kang, I'll answer your question now. Was there any usage of shield-like implements, for example, like how the later Pringle Green suggesting grabbing pistols backwards, putting the barrel against the forearm as parrying device? The later Pringle Green suggesting grabbing pistols. I'm not entirely sure what you're saying. There is like the Scottish like Jacobites used targes in battle, and there's like at least one illustration made of a pirate called John Gow when he uses a targe, which is a small shield, but there's no like descriptions of like pirates using shields. Spanish militias used shields. They used shields and spears, but like I don't know about if any pirates use shields. It doesn't seem like it. Not worth risk damaging your form. Thank you very much. I've seen many of your videos. First time I comment. Hello, Ramit. Nice to see you come out. Thank you. All right. Well, that was the last question. I'm tired now, and I said I was going to end it like 2 minutes ago. So no more answers. We'll do like another stream in like the future, but probably next month. I might do like one stream every month. A super chat from Cosplay Sign. I'm making a pirate RPG. This channel is out. Sounds awesome. Is it like a tabletop or like a video game? Gus said, "Thank you for the stream, man. It was a joy, especially you trying to pronounce my name. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Wonderful time. Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I just want to say what Cosplay Sign says about the RPG. Yeah, I helped my D&D sessions too. Oh, that's great. Video game actually. Oh, that's very cool. I hope you provide like post it in the Discord or whatever, or keep us updated later on. Sounds very cool. But yeah, thank you for the super chat, and I'm really glad I was able to help. Fairly well, good sir. Yeah, thank you very much. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I hope you show up at the next stream. Right. Also, first time I commented this year. Thanks a lot. It was a great time. Yeah, thank you for your questions, everyone. Hope I was able to answer them. Stay tuned for next videos. There's not going to be any video next week because next week is Baltic Empire video. It's going to be about the Viking trade with Byzantium. But then there's gonna be more Golden Gunpowder in 2 weeks. So, and there's gonna be some spookier videos for October about some nastier things. So I hope you guys are stay tuned for that. Yes. Good luck with suing also Crypto Fantasy. Anyway, I'm very bad at saying goodbye. Usually when I say goodbye to people, I just walk away or like say like bye, and then because it ends up like this. And there's so much people there and everything. Anyway, thank you everyone. Please enjoy the videos, and I'll see you later.